What's going on, fellow A-plusers? It's your boy Adam Perez back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news, streaming live to you guys over on our YouTube page, as well as Facebook and Twitch for you gamers out there. If you're checking us out over on Twitch, thank you very much, guys, for certainly coming through. A little bit of a late episode, if you will, to A-Plus Hero Report. I did have plans this morning to go ahead and drop this episode around 11 o'clock this morning, but unfortunately, some things wind up coming up, some miscommunication here or there. Had to wind up watching after Little Man earlier this morning. So was not able to go ahead and provide you guys with an early episode. But, listen, I felt like the past couple of weeks we haven't had an A-plus hero report, especially after everything that happened last week. But I really wanted to go ahead and give you guys a live episode here this weekend and kind of catch up on some news that is certainly out there in the world of nerd pop culture. I was supposed to have Indy here with me as well, but unfortunately something came up for him as well. So it's just been one of those days, you know what I'm saying? But it's good to be in front of the camera. It's just going to be myself here with you guys today. So solo dolo. And we should just kind of take it easy today. You know what I'm saying? I did have a beer that I took from the future in-laws or future family in-laws. I took a beer with me when we left about an hour or so ago, but I meant to bring it in here, and dang it, I unfortunately forgot it. So I got my agua though. I got my water, so we should certainly be good to go. We don't really have too many honorable mentions for you guys today. But before we get into the honorable mentions, looks like we got a few of you guys here in our live chat, surprisingly, for a evening episode. Let me see if I can give some shout outs to some people today. We got good old Ram Jam in the house, followed by good old Dino Knights in here as well, saying happy belated Thanksgiving. Same to you, AJ. Certainly hope everybody had a fantastic holiday. We got Alexander in the house, along with the most talented man alive joining us. Adam Perea is here as well. What's up, twin? Good to see you, man. Chris Crossman is here with us. Good old Jericho Gonzalez. We got Jackson Peterson. He said, I'm about to eat leftovers Thanksgiving barbecue and mac and cheese for dinner. That sounds delicious. I personally think, a killer mac and cheese for Thanksgiving. I literally had like a little bit of a portion left to kind of bring home with me. And I was kind of munching on that for just yesterday, like lunch and dinner. And I finished it off. And after eating it, I thought to myself, man, I should have really made a bigger batch of macaroni and cheese because I feel like I'm missing out on my own food. We got good old Michael in the house. What's up, Michael? Good to see you, man. We got Carlo Bernardo in here. Time Force. Nicole Robertson saying happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you had a fantastic Thanksgiving also. We got John Schuyler in the house. Good old Carter Matthews joining us because it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Jack is certainly here. Stuart's in the house. What's up, Stuart? Roberto is here as well. Followed by good old Kurt Marino, along with Power Rangers Legacy. We got Blossom in the house, along with Enrique. He says, hey, Adam, December is almost here, and Avatar, The Way of Water is weeks away. Yeah, I was actually just watching the official second trailer again this evening. And it did say tickets were on sale. So I might have to go ahead and get me and the girlfriend our tickets because it's looking pretty good. We will be talking about the Avatar official trailer, the second one that just dropped maybe 5 or 6 days ago. If you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, please do. It's going to be our final story that we're going to be tackling today. Good old Attila's in the house, along with Marcelino. What's up, Marcelino? Thank you so much for certainly coming through. All right, guys, let's see. What do we got for? Oh, you know what? I didn't even make a banner this week for honorable mentions. Let me make one real quick. Honorable mentions. Okay. What do we got here? I'm gonna pull up my Facebook page, see what kind of stories we've got that I know didn't quite make the cut, but wanted to at least inform you guys. So let's see what we got here. I want to say the first story is in regards to the movie Blade over at the MCU. We've talked about Blade in the past, how Mahershala Ali, goodness, I'm butchering the poor man's name today. There have been reports that he's been kind of a little frustrated with the development of Blade, concerning the fact that when it comes to the Marvel Studios, they are a little bit behind, if you will. They've lost their director. They haven't been too pleased in regards to the script or having real difficulty landing on a script. But this week, in regards to development for the Blade movie, Marvel has found a director and a writer officially. Since they parted ways, they have moved pretty fast. And it says, according to Deadline, they picked up a Jan Demange. I'm not too familiar with who he is, to go ahead and direct the picture, along with Michael Starbury, set to go ahead and write the script. So they are definitely taking another crack at it. Now, the movie itself is set to go ahead and release September 6th of 2024. This might be probably good timing to make sure that they actually hit that particular release date. And I can't remember if that was moved or not. Something tells me that it was moved, but they have at least landed their new writer and director. So Blade is still moving forward. It does say that in regards to Jan Damage, the director, he got his big break in the movie by the name of 71, starring Jack O'Connell. He also did a directing job for Matthew McConaughey's crime drama White Boy Rick. So he was the director for that as well. And he's also credited with some an episode, or I believe, of Lovecraft Country. As far as Michael Starbury, in regards to his writing, he did do the limited series When They See Us that earned him an Emmy nomination and he's also recently executive produced the limited series Colin in Black and White. So I'm not too familiar with their work, honestly. White Boy Rick does sound extremely familiar to me. So maybe I'll have to check that out to see what exactly Jan Demange as a director will certainly be bringing to the table for Blade, because I'm ready for this movie to certainly get in front of the camera. It's one of those I'll see it when I believe it sort of moments. It's not very often that we see Marvel Studios struggling or having hiccups like this. I don't know if it came down to just creative or literally not on the same page, but at least we're finally getting ourselves some development. Outside of that, the other honorable mention I wanted to mention to you guys this week, Quentin Tarantino is in the news. He's been quoted in Variety. This is the headline from Variety saying, Quentin Tarantino says Marvel actors aren't movie stars, saying Captain America is the star, not Chris Evans. So this kind of, I don't want to say echoes some past directors, because I don't think this is necessarily Quentin Tarantino saying comic book movies aren't real movies. I think he's definitely tackling the idea of movie stars in general. This is what he says. It says it's a statement that Quentin Tarantino, because Jennifer Aniston back in November declared there are no more movie stars, right? No more movie stars. It's a statement that Quentin Tarantino agrees with, is evidenced by the director's recent interview, where he says he attributed the loss of movie stars to the Marvelization of Hollywood. He says part of the Marvelization of Hollywood is you have all these actors who have become famous playing these characters, Tarantino said, but they're not movie stars, right? Captain America is the star, or Thor is the star. I mean, I'm not the first person to say that. I think that's been said a zillion times, but it's like, it's these franchise characters that become a star. He says, I'm not even putting them down, frankly, to tell you the truth. He says, but that is one of the legacy of the Marvelization of Hollywood movies. He also clarified in an interview that he does not hate Marvel movies, but dislikes them for being the only product that Hollywood is interested in making these days. And he says, look, I used to collect Marvel comics like crazy when I was a kid. That's an aspect that if these movies were coming out when I was in my 20s, I would totally be fucking happy and totally love them. I mean, they wouldn't be the only movies being made. They would be those movies amongst other movies. But, I'm almost 60. So yeah, no, I'm not quite as excited about them. My only axe to grind about them is that they're the only things that are being made, and they're the only things that seem to generate any kind of excitement amongst a fan base or even the studios making them. That's what they are excited about. And so just the fact that they are the entire representation of this era of movies right now, that's not really much room for anything else. That's my problem. And listen, I'm look, I will to a certain extent fully almost agree here with Quentin Tarantino in regards to certain things that he's saying. Because look, it is one of those things, and it's not like I don't think comic book movies, like when you look at DC Studios and you look at um, Marvel Studios and stuff, right? Like I don't think their idea is, hey, we want to ruin Hollywood or we want to ruin movies as a whole. I don't think they ever come out of the gate swinging with that as the objection, but they are able to make such incredible films that they are seemingly the only thing that people want to go out and see these days, or at least generate enough money for the most part, to where studios even want to take the risk and even develop something original or new, outside of doing something that is very Marvel or DC blockbuster esque. While they certainly still make those non blockbuster movies, if you look at their box offices, they certainly have struggled. And I think since they've been struggling, I think you see a lot of directors and people definitely pushing back against the idea of Marvel, or just comic book movies in general. But I kind of appreciate the way Quentin Tarantino goes about explaining what it is that he means. It's not the fact that he hates these movies, it's the fact that he realizes that these are the only movies that Hollywood looks to now as very much lucrative, right? The idea of maybe having to get something else done has maybe become a little bit more difficult for filmmakers to get approval, maybe from studios and things like that. And again, that's not saying anything against the comic book movie genre or what Marvel and DC studios are doing. It's just unfortunately the way that this particular era very much is as of right now. So I can definitely understand why he has a problem with that. And I think it's the same reason why some people these days will say, oh, Hollywood doesn't make anything original anymore, sort of thing. And that's just not true. I just don't think that we're actually looking. I mean, the big blockbuster movies certainly get all the marketing, all the promotion work. It's everything that we certainly see on television when it comes to commercials and trailers and ads and stuff. But I do think if you actually look at what is currently in theaters or what is in fact coming soon, there's certainly enough originality certainly out there. But I think the fact again that we're in that mindset of Hollywood doesn't create anything original, I think is probably in part with the idea that these studios have picked up these bigger blockbuster sort of films. And those, unfortunately, these days certainly tend to be Marvel and DC or just comic book genre oriented films. Now, as far as the idea of even Jennifer Aniston mentioning, there are no more movie stars and Quentin Tarantino kind of agreeing with it, this is kind of where I'm like on the fence, honestly. And the reason why I say that is when I think of I don't think Captain America is the star. And I don't think Thor is the star either. I think Chris Evans is certainly a star. I think Chris Hemsworth is certainly a star that helps make those characters. But when I think of movie star, I think of an actor, regardless of what they're in, that will draw tons of people into that seat. Um, and to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think we've got many, or if at all, movie stars out there that will really draw a crowd on just name power alone. Um, Maybe you can say that about Dwayne the Rock Johnson. You might even be able to say that about Ryan Reynolds right now. But when I look at something like, say, Black Adam, I think some people probably felt that maybe that movie kind of even underwhelmed a little bit, sort of at the box office. Even though it is Dwayne the Rock Johnson's biggest film that he's had, if I'm not mistaken. So, there are so when I think of movie stars, I think if you put Chris Evans in his own individual film and something separate from Captain America, I don't think Chris Evans draws a huge crowd or a huge box office on his own. Same thing with Chris Hemsworth. I don't think if there's just a Chris Hemsworth led movie out there, I don't think he draws a crowd either. Tom Holland, he's great as Spider Man. He so again, these actors and stars make these characters, but I don't necessarily know if I would go so far as to call Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Tom Holland movie stars because again, it's just my definition of movie stars in the sense of if it's just you as the lead, can you bring in butts in that seat and a huge box office? And I just don't know if there's that many people out there in Hollywood currently that can certainly do that. And so there's a part of me that kind of agrees with them. But again, I don't agree with Quentin Tarantino in the thinks of Captain America being the star and Chris Evans not. That's just ass backwards to me. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, these Marvel characters, were well known by me, the big nerd in the room, but the general audience is nobody knows these dudes. So that's why you bring in the star. Robert Downey Jr. was probably that star at the time. Again, if you put Robert Downey Jr. in any movie now, again, I don't know if he makes the money that he does representing or being somebody like Iron Man. You know what I mean? So I think these stars clearly make these characters, but I do agree that Hollywood is very much lacking that big movie star. If you guys feel differently though, if you think that there's somebody out there that does draw attention, non-comic book character, if you take the actor and just put them in a movie, will that movie alone make buku bucks and put people in their seats? You guys let me know who some of the actors are that you feel can certainly do that. So yeah, guys, those are just the last those are only the honorable mentions I really wanted to talk about here today. Let's see here. See what some of you guys are saying in regards to that. Marcelino says, if Quentin Tarantino watched The Boys, Joker, or The Eternals, then that could show him that comic book movies don't have to be the typical superhero story. I don't think that's what he's complaining about, though. I don't think he's complaining about that they're not telling good stories. I think he's complaining about the idea that Hollywood doesn't want to tell any other stories besides comic book movies. Tilla says Dwayne might be getting ready to return to the ring in April next year. Oh, because I brought up Dwayne Johnson. Marcelino says, while I wish more original content was made, society views things differently as time changes. 90s anything high school had portrayed as everyone being happy and hot as real as realistic. Datilla says, I agree with you, Adam. I don't think that they're leading men. Yeah, and I mean, maybe like maybe Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman, I think maybe might be able to kind of get away with that. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But there is maybe Hugh Jackman. If I had to make a top three, it might be Hugh Jackman, it might be Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and it might be Ryan Reynolds. But if you guys have any suggestions, certainly let me know. Chris said, wait, we're still on honorable mentions. If so, you're doing an amazing job. Thank you. I appreciate that, Chris. But we're actually going to be ending honorable mentions now. Oh, man, my boy he's not happy right now. I can hear him giving mama a fit out there right now. Um, Look, he didn't get a nap today, so he's super fussy. I'm a stickler for trying to stick to his schedule, like his nap and stuff. But when we send him out to family members, everybody wants to see him. Everybody wants him, pass him around. It's really hard to kind of keep him stuck to his schedule. You know what I mean? And he's just becoming so much more independent now in the sense of wanting to walk or wanting to crawl, at least play with his toy sort of thing. So if you take him off his what he wants to do, he definitely does get quite sassy when he certainly wants to. So yeah. But let's see here. Let's see what else we've got on deck for you guys here today. Marcelino says, I think per MCU, Evans, Hemsworth, Holland would not be able to bring money, but post MCU, they would bring in money because they become household names due to the MCU. They definitely have become. they definitely have become household names for sure. That's not necessarily the same as a movie star, though. Like if anything, I would just let me like I definitely want to take a trip and down the internet lane one day and literally just pull up like movie stars and what their movies that they've been in that are not comic book movies, how those movies have really been doing. You know what I mean? If they're here just to see them in these superhero movies, or if they're really going out and spending money to see them, like Knives Out, I think did a fantastic job, right? But that's more of an ensemble. That's not really like I wonder how Uncharted did with Tom Holland. I can't remember what it did at the box office or not, but just some examples. Datilla also says, as far as leading men go, maybe Vin Diesel. Um, maybe again, even Vin Diesel. He's a part of an ensemble crew on Fast and the Furious. Those movies make buku bucks of money, but you put him in like a Bloodshot. You put him in like a what is the one where he was like a witch or something like that? I can't remember. It was like some fantasy movie. It just bombed at the box office. So I just don't know if people are going out to see them, or maybe it's the idea of like these scripts are just not very good whatsoever. You know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see. But I am kind of curious to know what you guys think. I'm a little bit of a mixed bag right now when it comes to what Quentin Tarantino certainly has to say. Give me a second here, guys. I think my internet freezing on me? Probably, because that's what it loves to do when I'm going live. So give me one moment here, guys. And all right, let's see here. Let's go ahead and get into our main topics, y'all ready to go ahead and get into some of our main topics today? Let me go ahead and pull up our first one for you guys. So we'll go ahead and kick off with the main topic, which is our very front of the thumbnail, as you can see here, as we got good old Bob Iger is back. We wind up getting some shocking news from the Hollywood Reporter this week that the former CEO and head of Disney Plus is on his way back in. We literally have been over the past year or so since Bob Iger left. Maybe it's been a little bit longer than that. I don't really know. We know we've been dealing with the gentleman by the name of Bob Chapek, who really has gotten just not the warmest welcome, really kicking himself in the butt, maybe even shooting himself in the foot on occasions with some really controversial decisions. I don't know if you guys remember the Scarlett Johansson Black Widow lawsuit that was certainly happening. I mean, there were just some really terrible decisions that were certainly made earlier on in Bob Chapek's tenure. Even had the like don't say gay bill over in Florida or something like that I think he might have supported briefly, and then eventually came out and was like, no, here at Disney, we're going to be doing very much our own thing, yada yada yada, pushing back against things. So he's been a little bit of a hot water, if you will. Bob Chapek certainly has, and even though it feels like those were times of the past, that there's a part of me thinking that maybe he can change his, I don't want to say change his ways, but right the ship, if you will, right? Make better decisions. And I believe this past June, or maybe it was in July or something like that, I thought they literally just gave this man an extension or an additional contract for Bob Chapek. But unfortunately for Bob Chapek, he is on his way out. And this week, they have in fact announced that they are bringing back Bob Iger. So let's go ahead and dive into this and see what is going on when it comes to management behind the scenes over at Disney right now. I personally was not expecting this. So this was a huge shocker, to say the least, because I think we had all just very much gotten comfortable with the idea that Bob Chapek is the man, and Bob Iger is going to go on and do much bigger things. Disney shocker, Bob Iger returning as CEO, Bob Chapek exits. It says Disney board of directors said that Iger has agreed to serve as Disney's CEO for 2 years, with the mandate from the board to set the strategic direction for renewed growth and to identify a successor. So looks like this is only going to be temporary, nothing permanent, but temporary over the next 2 years. But who knows? Who knows? Bob left once. Heck, he might have tried this, might have actually been his second time trying to leave. Who knows if he's going to leave a third time or not? But it says in a stunning turn of events, Walt Disney says that Bob Chapek will step down as CEO, with Bob Iger returning to lead the company. It says, we thank Bob Chapek for his service to Disney over his long career, including at navigation of the pandemic. The board has concluded that Disney embarks on an increasingly complex period of an industry transformation. Bob Iger is uniquely situated to lead the company through this pivotal period, which he certainly is. Bob Iger is definitely no stranger to changing the culture and the environment of Disney in order for it to grow immensely. I feel like under Bob Iger's leadership, Disney has probably really hit his stride. Um, Much quicker than I think many people expected, but that's just the magic of Bob Iger. I feel like I rarely hear anything negative about this man, as he is just a deal maker, and he just a very much a forward thinker, if you will. Give me one moment, guys. Okay, here we go. It says Chapek had just signed. Here we go. Chapek had just signed a new multi-year contract in June, after the ouster of TV chief Peter Rice earlier that month prompted the board to issue a notable public statement backing the CEO. So they literally just gave this man a multi-year contract in June. Iger even acknowledged in an email to Disney employees Sunday that he is returning with an incredible sense of gratitude and humility, and I must admit, a bit of amazement. While Iger will be returning to his old role, the board also made it clear that his new term will only be a temporary one. And that's what we just pretty much talked about, the idea that they would like him to make create a successor. It says, who will Bob Iger's successor be? Is sure to be the hotly debated again, given that much of the prior decade saw a wave of executives speculated about as a possibility, only to exit or be passed over. Mrs. Iger stepped aside as CEO back in February of 2020, handing the reins to Chapek, who previously led the company's theme parks and consumer product division. Iger continued to serve as an executive chairman of the company, stepping down from that position just 11 months ago. Since that time, he found a part-time gig as a venture capital firm as well. Um, so yeah, and they talk a little bit about some of Chapek's problems that he certainly had to deal with also. So I think this is a really just a mind blowing decision here. If I could be honest with you, though, one that I am extremely happy with. I was always a really big fan of Bob Iger. And if you ask me, I think this will hopefully continue to set Disney on the right track, certainly going forward. I don't know. I feel like he knows the company well enough. He's got great relationships with people, which are extremely important. Bob Chapek felt like he had the personality of like a cardboard box at times, didn't necessarily know how to interact with people or handle the position that he was in. I mean, I heard horror stories of Bob Chapek as the lead or the head over at Disney theme parks. I think maybe even Stewart has something probably to say in regards to that also. So the fact that Bob Iger is coming back feels like they're correcting a wrong that was certainly done. And I definitely do feel like Bob Iger and Chapek's relationship has always, I don't want to say always been a strenuous one, but I think during the time period of Iger trying to make Chapek his successor and allow Bob Iger to finally leave, I felt that they probably had a clashing in regards to their mindset of how to certainly run the company. And again, that's not to say that nothing good happened under Chapek's watch. I mean, I think if anything, his focus on Disney Plus and streaming, I think really helped catapult Disney Plus to where it's at with like 250 million like subscribers or something like that. Or maybe they just recently added that much last year. I can't recall. But Bob Chapek has certainly done some significant things. But if you're looking at the comparison between Iger and Chapek here, Iger has just done so incredibly much for Disney. I think that he might have even been the one that put the deal in to go ahead and pick up Pixar for Disney. Same thing with Lucasfilm bringing them on board, Marvel Studios. I mean, Bob Iger literally changed the landscape for Disney. So massive update here, massive shocker. It'll be interesting to see how everything else certainly plays itself out. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe he's already started getting to work on like unfortunately, and look again, anytime that there's brand new management, people are unfortunately gonna get fired. And so I believe I even read an article this week that Bob Iger's already like anybody that Chapek kind of might have put in charge might certainly be on the chopping block sooner rather than later, unfortunately. But yeah, big things are certainly headed Disney's way. And I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. I was not expecting to wake up like Monday or Tuesday when this article dropped to this news whatsoever. But Chapek, I guess thanks for nothing. I don't know. And welcome back, Papa Iger. It's good to see you, man. I definitely missed having him around. And maybe things will go back, like things will maybe on Disney's lot. Everybody will be copacetic once again. People will be singing Kumbaya. Everybody will be singing Bob Iger's praises and some really great decision making, certainly going forward. But let us know your thoughts, guys, in regards to that. Even Ram Jam believes Bob Chapek was bad for Disney. I definitely agree with you, man. I definitely agree with you there. But yeah, guys, definitely let us know your thoughts. Are you happy to see Bob Iger back? Are you disappointed to see Bob Chapek go? Did you think maybe Bob Chapek got the middle finger too much? Didn't really get a fair chance, or you think Bob Iger is certainly the way to go? Let me know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. And if my thing lags here, man, my internet lags here, I do apologize. I'm trying to see if anybody else is saying anything in regards to that. Okay, I don't see any other. Down Knight says, "Is it me or is it Adam freezing? Wasn't sure if it was my wife. I know it's mine. Mine's is a little bit acting up today. Just keeping my fingers crossed that it doesn't drop me, guys." What's up, Double C? Disney needs to do something different with Marvel. Well, look, I will say a double C patience. And the only reason why I say that is I know phase 4 was kind of rocky for some. I personally didn't mind it. I know it was kind of rocky for some. I mean, I see, I can understand I can understand people's sentiments in regards to phase 4. But, phase 5, which we'll talk about here a little bit with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. I think big things might be happening here in phase 5 and really kind of put us on a trajectory with a very focused and attention oriented, towards phase 6, or at least our Avenger film. So I'm hoping Double C that things certainly will be changing. Carter Matthews says, my friends saw the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie and they said it was really good and weird at the same time. It was odd seeing Karen Gillan back as what's her face? Oh, Nebula. Have I seen it? Yes. Me and the girlfriend actually watched it 2 nights ago. I had been meaning to go ahead and do a review for it, but didn't get the opportunity to at least sit down and record it. So maybe I'll do a quick one right here and give you guys my thoughts on the Hollywood special for Guardians of the Galaxy. I really enjoyed it. Me and the girlfriend found ourselves laughing our asses off, if you will. I thought the story was really enjoyable. James Gunn nailed it, if you ask me. Like to the point where even my girlfriend was like, "Babe, this might have to be like a new Christmas tradition that we watch around this household like every year." I think it's not only funny, but it's got really great sentiment and heart behind it as well. That at times kind of got me a little bit choked up. I can't even lie. In regards to it, I just think it was a really well told story. I love the fact that Drax and Mantis really get sort of the spotlight in here. This is kind of like their holiday special. It feels like really great intentions of wanting, Quill, aka Star Lord, to really enjoy and celebrate Christmas, even though he's certainly not on Earth. And the lengths that they certainly go to do this for him is funny, incredible, and endearing all at the same time. I mean, I really had a great time with this. The soundtrack was pretty good. There were like 3 or 4 like new Christmas songs, or at least covers to Christmas songs, that I was a really big fan of as well. So yeah, man, really enjoyable stuff. I mean, for a 44-minute holiday special, these special presentations that Marvel have been doing, great, if you ask me. Werewolf by Night was fantastic. This holiday special, to perfection, and it definitely hits that Guardians of the Galaxy vibe, but very much a heartfelt sort of Christmas sentiment behind it as well. And yeah, a lot of great things. I don't want to necessarily spoil it for you guys. It's great presents that they hand out to one another. Rocket's present that he receives from Nebula, it all comes full circle is all I'll certainly say. And if you haven't had the opportunity to check it out for yourself, please do. I think you will certainly not regret it. But yeah, man, I had a fantastic time checking it out for sure, Carter. Datilla. Oh, going back to the movie stars, Denzel Washington. I would put Denzel Washington on that list. All right. Down Night says, check that Ethernet cable. Believe it or not, the Ethernet cable is in right now. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next topic, because our next topic is, in fact, a big one. As this past week, Empire Magazine has literally been flooding my Twitter account. Anywhere I look, I've been seeing Empire Magazines and articles in regards to the upcoming Indiana Jones 5, starring Harrison Ford, along with Phoebe Waller. Was it Bridges? If I'm not mistaken, I could be butchering her last name. I do apologize, guys. But they've been having at least 3 articles, maybe even 4 articles that we went ahead and posted on our Facebook page for you guys to certainly go ahead and check out. And I wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about Indiana Jones 5, just because, again, we're really pushing towards the release. It doesn't come out till next year, but this is really our first glimpse and bits of information for this upcoming movie that's really been shrouded in mystery, as a 80-something-year-old Harrison Ford returns for Indiana Jones. And I've just been so fascinated to not only see what Harrison Ford is going to bring back to the character after so many iterations and years of films for this franchise, but I'm really fascinated about what James Mangold is going to be doing as the director for this film. You might have remembered him from Logan, who did an incredible job. It feels like has James Mangold become like the retiree director? Like, if you're going out and you're not going to reprise these characters ever again, bring James in. Bring James in. He did it for Hugh Jackman as Logan, even though Hugh Jackman's now returning, and it seems he's trying to do the same thing here for Harrison Ford. But let's dive into it. I've got like 3 articles we're just gonna skim through real quick. I'll even highlight some brand new photos that they went ahead and dropped for us as well. But the first article here is that Indiana Jones is back, guys. It's full of adventure, laughs, and real emotion, is what Harrison Ford says. They also went ahead and dropped an exclusive image here. If you want to see it bigger for you guys, boom, that's the actual Empire Magazine exclusive for you guys as we get into our Indiana Jones bag here. Let's see here. It says, now in a major world exclusive, Empire presents your first look at this epic comeback. In this issue, we get the first word on the film that brings the iconic hero back on the screen, and its star promises all the excitement, emotion, spectacle, and unexpected turns that only Indiana Jones can provide. It's full of adventure, full of laughs, full of real emotion, and it's complex and it's sneaky, Harrison Ford tells Empire. Stepping back into the world of Indy was no mean feat. He says the shooting of it was tough and long and arduous, he says, but I'm very happy with the film that we have. Those are some pretty good words, if you ask me, from Harrison Ford. Honestly, as a movie fan and hearing Harrison Ford, like, Harrison Ford never comes across to me as like the type of guy that is willing to sugarcoat it. You know what I mean? Like, I think if Harrison Ford is really displeased, or he doesn't feel some type of way about the movie, I think you can either read between the lines, or if it's like in front of a camera, I think you can see it right on his face if this is something that he is just not a big fan of. So when I hear him talking about Indiana Jones 5 this way, how much hard work you put into it, how much it kind of kicked his ass, and the rewards of that extremely tough shoot is the idea that we end up getting a film full of adventure, laughs, emotion, complexity, and sneakiness. That's definitely a lot in one movie. But it seems to me like it's really tackling a little bit of everything for us. It says they talk a little bit about the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull here, but it also says, but while it found Indy older and perhaps wiser than we'd ever seen him in the original trilogy, it wasn't necessarily an ending. That's where Indiana Jones 5's comes in. I just thought it would be nice to see one where Indiana Jones was at the end. Of his journey, Ford explained. If a script came along that I felt gave me a way to extend the character. That script comes from Jez and John Henry Buttonworth, writing alongside director James Mangold. So he did write the film also. Says he also did Logan and Ford v Ferrari, which was a great movie. Now facing the daunting task of following up a certain Spielberg film. And he says, for Mangold, it was all about the challenge of making a final Indiana Jones film. He says it became more important to me to figure out how to make this a movie about a hero at sunset. He says nothing that he steered the film further in that direction. He says the issues I brought up about Indy's age were not things I thought were being addressed in the material being developed at the time. There were old jokes, but the material itself wasn't about it. To me, whatever your greatest liability, you should fly straight towards that. If you try to pretend it's not there, you end up getting slings and arrows the whole way. So I think that's a really smart approach by James Mangold. The idea that apparently the previous scripts just had old jokes and not addressing the idea that, guys, Harrison Ford is 80 fucking years old. Like, Indiana Jones is an old man. That's got to be a liability for him in some way or another. And I think that just adds even more depth to the script and to the film, if you ask me. And so there's a part of me that kind of really wants to see this concept of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones in the sunset of his career, knowing that this man just cannot do what he certainly did in the past. There's a photo out there, I think Empire Magazine might have actually posted, where you see Harrison Ford as Indy, not in his, he's just playing Indiana, but he's running in the streets. He's got like a business suit on and he's running like full sprint. And I'm just thinking to myself, is that really Harrison Ford running like that? Or they just put his face on like a stunt double and de-aged him a little bit or something? I'm like, I just can't imagine Harrison Ford at this point in his career, like just busting into an all-out sprint, chasing somebody down. But who knows? Maybe Harrison Ford's physique and his workout regimen is much better than what I'm currently even doing for all I know. Maybe he can keep up with me at this age for all I know. But I love the attention to detail by James Mangold here, who's really going to be addressing the idea of a hero at his sunset. So yeah, some really great points there. And again, I do think Harrison Ford is one of those actors who, for the most part, will always be upfront and honest with you, I think. And I think if he's displeased with the script, if he's displeased with the way that a film has been going, he will certainly tell you that. And the fact that he stuck around after all these delays for them to finally perhaps get this right, and give the film high praise for everything that it includes, I think that's something that we should certainly be paying attention to. So if you haven't had the opportunity to read any of these articles, please go ahead and certainly do so. But I think that speaks volumes to me personally. But that's not the only Indiana Jones article, right? Because look, we've got the Indiana Jones character himself, Harrison Ford. We got James Mangold directing and co-writing this movie, talking a little bit, but there's still a lot of mystery in regards to who some of these characters certainly are, especially with the addition of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who has in fact joined this particular movie, most notably known, I believe, from the series Fleabag. I haven't personally watched the series, maybe just a couple of clips here or there, but she really has like draws my attention to her. I think she's a really great actor, and I'm kind of interested to see what it's going to be like for her opposite of somebody like Harrison Ford. And so we get a little bit more insight in regards to her character here. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is Indy's goddaughter, Helena, in Indiana Jones 5. She's a mystery and a wonder, is what they say. So let's go ahead and check this out. It says next stop, Indiana Jones 5 will she'll play a pivotal part in Harrison Ford's final fedora topped outing, and Indy's 1969 adventure. She enters the fray. Oh, so it's set in 1969. So we are going back. Indy's in 1969 set adventure. She enters the fray as Helena, none other than Henry Jones Jr.'s goddaughter. This is what Phoebe Waller-Bridge says. She says she's a mystery and a wonder, teasing her largely under wraps role. In fact, plenty of adjectives abound when describing Helena. According to the incoming director, James Mangold, he says she's slippery, charming, the girl next door, and a drifter. Per Harrison Ford himself, he says she's a pioneer in ethical accounting. And for the actor, it all sprang from a conversation with legendary producer Kathleen Kennedy. It says Kathy was in London and asked to have dinner with me and casually mentioned, this is what Phoebe Waller-Bridge says, I immediately ordered 10 bottles of wine. Then it was the fastest I've ever read a script. I came out of a sort of haze afterwards. I just couldn't believe how much fun I had and how moved I was by it. And then I had a Zoom and screamed yes at them all. So I mean, it seems like Phoebe Waller-Bridge was even moved literally by reading the script, and not even seeing the movie after she certainly put it together. So clearly the script to her was quite powerful enough to certainly draw her in. The fact that she mentions the idea that she not only got immersed into it, just what did she say? She said she couldn't believe how much fun she had reading it and how moved she was by it. And I think a lot of that really just backs up what Harrison Ford and James Mangold just mentioned in regards to the idea of what this movie is going to provide for us. It says, for Mangold, a key feature, a reference point, I should say, for Waller-Bridge in bringing Helena to life was Barbara Stanwyck's role in 1941 screwball comedy The Lady Eve. He says, oh yeah, sure, I'll just do my Barbara Stanwyck. I'm not familiar with who that is personally. but it says it's an impossible feat. But amongst all the conning and the comedy, also came the chance to leap into the kind of massive action set piece that the Indiana Jones movie do best. Honestly, I just loved it, is what she says. When you're playing a character who throws herself on the back of a vehicle, there's no acting around that. You just have to bloody do it. The mystery and wonder of Helena is about to unfold. So yeah, I think she's definitely going to be bringing comedy abound, some definitely lightheartedness abound. Um, I hope it's not necessarily to the levels of Temple of Doom, where I can't remember the character's name that he was with, going through the tunnels and having to stick your hand into holes with snakes and stuff. Like that comedy was maybe a little bit too much from my taste. It's probably why like Temple of Doom is probably my least favorite indie film, and that might be kind of blasphemous to some people. I do apologize. There are some things I enjoy about it, but it's probably my least favorite. So I do hope that when it comes to Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Helena, that there's certainly more to her than just the comedy chops. Because I do think Phoebe can definitely bring the comedy. I definitely want to see how she handles the drama and the action, though. But she looks like she's honestly ready for it, though, if you ask me. And we also got a bigger size photo for the Empire magazine exclusive for you guys. So take a look at that. And then we got one more aspect of the Indiana Jones, and that's the villains. Because when it comes to Indiana Jones, if he's not fighting Nazis, something is wrong, y'all. Okay, and guess what? We've got more Nazis here. When it comes to Indiana Jones 5. So let me go ahead and bring this one up for us as well as we dive into this. It says, oops, is this working? Oh my goodness. Hold on a second, guys. This is going to freeze on me again. I can just tell. It says Indiana Jones will pit Indy against Nazis again, but this time in 1969. It says, let's see here. What else we got here? Empire can reveal that Indiana Jones 5 finds our hero in 1969, living against the backdrop of the space race. Okay, okay. But the American effort to beat the Russians to the moon brings with it some uncomfortable truths for Indy. The simple fact is that the moon landing program was run by a bunch of ex Nazis. Indiana Jones 5 co writer and acclaimed British playwright Jez Butterworth tells Empire. How X they are is the question, and it gets up Indy's nose. Pitching Indiana, a man always looking to the secrets of the earth rather than the stars, into the era of the astronaut, finds him even more a man out of time. It's just not the model of what a hero is, has completely changed. It's not just that they're looking for something where there's nothing up there. It's like Reno without the gambling or whatever his line is. But the people that are behind it are, his sworn enemies. So, look, eat your heart out, Tom Cruise. It looks like Indiana Jones might actually beat you to space before Mission Impossible does. Now, I don't think Indiana Jones is going into space, but I do dig that concept. The idea that the backdrop is of the space race between America's effort to beat the Russians to the moon, and realizing that some Nazis are certainly behind it. It does make me also wonder, what is it that they're certainly looking for on the moon? And it looks like there's a little bit of a ticker tape parade going on out there for sure. And then you also have enter Mads Mikkelsen, the villainous Voller, inspired partly by real life Nazi turned NASA engineer, a Werner von Braun. He's a man who would like to correct some of the mistakes of the past, teases Mad Mikkelsen. There is something that could make the world a much better place to live in. He would love to get his hands on it. Indiana Jones wants to get his hands on it as well. And so we have a story. So it looks like we've got ourselves a little bit of a space race here between these two. It's a story that blends fact, fiction, fedoras, and fascists. The four F's that you need in making a great movie, y'all. And I personally love blends of fact and fiction. It says, including a major action set piece set at the Apollo 11 ticker tape parade in New York, which is what we were just looking at here. Thrown to celebrate the astronauts on August 13th, 1969. The sequence not only sees Boyd Holbrook's nefarious Kleber. He says, I'm a lapdog to Mads Mikkelsen, and a crazy one at that. This is where we see the nefarious Kleber caught up in the middle of the historic celebration, but also provided the inspiration for Empire's. Oh, okay. So we got some, it looks like an exclusive subscriber cover for them as well. That's a pretty badass Empire cover, if you ask me. So I dig it. 1969 backdrop is a space race. America versus Russia. Clearly, there's some ex-Nazis working under whether it's the Russian program, NASA program, who certainly knows. But it definitely seems as though there is a race, maybe not only to the moon, but maybe something on the moon that has to be looked after. So I kind of dig the idea and concept of this. This feels like a much more original concept or much stronger concept for a film than something like Crystal Skull. And while I did appreciate the extraterrestrial concepts of it, I do wonder if that's where this is kind of pushing the limits a little bit more for that as well. So yeah, man, overall, everything that I feel like I'm hearing is perfect for me for an Indiana Jones movie, man. New characters, emotion, action, Nazis returning once again. Yeah, this is lining up perfectly if you ask me. So let's just go over some of these new exclusive photos. What are your guys' level of excitement for Indiana Jones? Are you guys kind of over it as of right now? The Crystal Skull movie, did that just leave a bad taste in your mouth? Do you not believe that they can do it again? Or now that you see James Mangold co-writing and directing in his past work, Harrison Ford and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, are you getting a little bit more confidence that this might actually be a well thought out and put together movie? For me, I personally believe so. I trust in James Mangold. I do believe Disney looked at that last Indiana Jones film and just like, man, we really dropped the ball on that one. And I'm really eager to kind of see what they're going to be doing here with this film. So good luck, man. Hero in his sunset. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of emotion for us Indiana Jones fans who have followed the franchise for such a long time to kind of see Harrison Ford take his final bow. It's going to be emotional regardless of what the outcome is of this film. But let me know your thoughts, guys, in the comment section box below. Indiana Jones 5 preview. Are you ready for it? Or not? So let me go ahead and know, guys. Dino Knight says Harrison Ford is a boss from Han Solo to Indiana Jones. He's like the James Bond of archaeology. Can he do a role in the MCU, please? Hey, you know what, Dino Knights? You asked and you shall receive, because Harrison Ford is playing General Thunderbolt Ross in the MCU. He's actually going to be in Captain America and the New World Order. And then I believe he's also popping up in the Thunderbolts movie, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe that that is, in fact, confirmed. So he will be joining the MCU. But yes, this man can honestly do it all. Ram Jam says, me and I still prefer the original Indiana Jones movie over what came after. And yeah, those are classics. You know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Last Crusade, Temple of Doom. Yeah, those are definitely classics. The Crystal Skull was certainly a hiccup. You know, there are aspects of it that I found enjoyable that were certainly fun, but it just didn't land or hit like a classic Indiana Jones movie. You know what I mean? So we'll see how this one turns out, though. But I'm definitely keeping my fingers crossed. All right, guys. And with that out of the way, we will go ahead and move on to our next topic, which we're actually going to go ahead and dive right into the world of Marvel. Since we're talking about Disney so much here, right? We went from Bob Iger, talked a little bit about the Lucasfilm movie for Indiana Jones. Now let's dive over to Marvel Studios and talk some Thor, ladies and gentlemen, because Chris Hemsworth is certainly back in the news this week. And he had an interesting interview on a podcast this week that was picked up by comicbook.com, who Chris Hemsworth talked a little bit about the idea that if he and certainly is to return as Thor, things might have to be a little bit different. So let's kind of parse through what he's saying here. Is there disappointment in Chris's voice when he says this? Let's go ahead and figure out exactly what he means by this, because maybe some big changes are coming to the Thor character as we move forward. But again, this is according to comicbook.com, saying that Chris Hemsworth says Thor 5 needs to be drastically different from Ragnarok and Love and Thunder. It said that he was currently on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, where the veteran was asked point blank where Thor Odin's son's story should go next. And what may be surprising response to some, Hemsworth wasn't necessarily about the idea of picking up where his last film left off. He says, I mean, you look at Thor 1 and 2, they were quite similar. Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, similar. I think it's just about reinventing it, Hemsworth explained. And I've had such a unique opportunity, even with Infinity War and Endgame, to do very drastic things with the character. I enjoy that. I like keeping people on their toes. It keeps me on my toes, keeps me invested. And I've said this before, when it becomes too familiar, I think there's a risk of getting lazy. I think like, I know what I'm doing, you know? So I don't know. Again, I don't even know if I'm invited back, but if I was, I think it'd have to be a drastically different version. Tone, everything, just for my own sanity. Um, I am kind of curious in this. And we'll revisit this here in a second. But it also says, it does say reaction to Thor 4 made for a fair argument that the franchise has exhausted its zany comedic run. So Chris Hemsworth may indeed be reading the room accurately when he says the next film needs to do something different. Kevin Feige has been a little bit more diplomatic, teasing in previous interviews that he and the Marvel creative team have any number of Thor stories they'd love to bring to the MCU. This is what Kevin Feige says. He says, I know this. There are many, many other Thor stories in the comics that we talk about a lot. And as we watch Chris Hemsworth continue to grow and evolve as a major acting talent, I would be excited to see how he keeps evolving this complex character. So that's exactly what good old Chris Hemsworth certainly had to say. And look, I'll be honest, I don't think he's wrong in this. I don't think he's wrong in this whatsoever. I do think that it certainly needs a change. Um, and I'll say this: look, I am a big fan of Taika Waititi and his work. I think he's just a very creative talent. I think I was going to say he knows how to bring a balance to a movie if you need him to. If you really need to like shape this movie and like, look, we have an image in mind. This is what we want to create. Taika Waititi is more than capable of creating a balanced movie. When it comes to Thor, Ragnarok was, I think, really perfect, a really great balance of a little bit of everything. But when I get to Love and Thunder, while again, it's a movie that I certainly enjoyed, the comedy is super heavy in it. To the point to where it feels very much like they even let the reins off of Taika Waititi this time and said, just go and create. And create, he certainly did, to an unfortunate mixed bag for some people in regards to its reactions. I'm not exactly sure how much that movie made in the box office. Somebody please tell me how much the movie made worldwide. I think it still did substantially pretty good financially. But I feel like if there was any big complaint that I heard from a lot of people, it is the idea that it was just too comedic. And there were certain aspects to it that, again, that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the humor. I really enjoyed sort of the awkward exes meeting back up, the jealous hammers, if you will, the screaming goats. But after a while, there is a sense of, I would like this film to kind of take itself seriously. And there are definitely aspects of serious tones in the movie, especially at least when you dive into, Gore the God Butcher and things like that. So I understand. I feel like this level of comedy for Thor can be exhausting. And I think even when Chris Hemsworth says something along the lines of like, I think it'd have to be a drastically different version tone, everything just for my own sanity that he laughs. There's a part of me that wonders if he's like, even maybe even he thought that that was too comedic and he maybe wants to reel it back in for his own sanity just a little bit. Like he's had two movies where he's just been just so incredibly goofy that it's like I gotta hold the reins and bring the reins back in for this Thor character. So look, I think now is the perfect time that if we are going to get a Thor 5, it is time to certainly do something different. And that's not taking anything away from Taika Waititi. But again, the first two Thor movies, like he mentioned, vastly similar. The next two, vastly similar to one another. I think you can create a pattern here in the sense of like, okay, yeah, maybe now is the time that we go about changing things up when it comes to the Thor character and giving us something a little bit different. I personally am ready for that tone. I again, nothing against Watiti, but I'm ready for them to move on from Taika, let him do other things in his career that he certainly wants to, and bring in another writer and director to really allow us to see a different vision of this character. And trust me when I say there are just so many Thor stories out there. I love the fact that they tackled Jason Aaron's story here for the Mighty Thor in the Love and Thunder movie that we wind up getting. But Jason Aaron has just an impeccable sort of impeccable writing arcs when it comes to the Thor comic books when he took over. I would love to see like old man Thor, if you will. Like the last of the Asgardians, like the one that just sits on his throne with like no more Asgard basically around him, sort of thing. Metal arm, eye patch. It would, that's a very much very that's a very big jump into the future for those stories to certainly be told. But I think there's plenty of Thor stories out there that Chris Hemsworth can truly sink his teeth into that aren't as comedic as the last two films. Again, Thor Ragnarok I thought was great. Me and the girlfriend had some great laughs for Love and Thunder also. But I would agree with Chris Hemsworth here in the sense that, we've got two similar movies. If you want to bring me back, again, I think also the fact that we've gotten ourselves a fourth Thor movie doing something that no other MCU character or actor that plays their character has certainly done. And I think there's more on the bone. I honestly do think that there's certainly more on the bone with the Thor character in here that you could get 5, 6 Thor movies out of there. And I don't necessarily know if anybody would certainly bat an eye because I do think that if there's anybody that loves playing this role, as long as it continues to be different and challenge him, I definitely do think it's Chris Hemsworth. So I think we can get maybe 2 more Thor solo films out of this dude. I don't know. He might be done after one more because I do expect to maybe see him pop up eventually again in some Avengers films. So maybe 2 more Thor films and a couple of cameos here or there. I don't know if he's got it in him, but I do think it is more than possible. And listen, if Chris Hemsworth doesn't want to come back, look, I think Natalie Portman did a fantastic job as Jane Foster. I'm sure there's probably some way people can return from Valhalla if they certainly wanted to. So I wouldn't mind seeing her again as the Mighty Thor at some point in time if Chris Hemsworth ever got to the point of wanting to truly sort of pass the mantle along. But I don't know if that was just a one-off for Natalie Portman at all. But I understand where you're coming from, Chris. I definitely do, man. Nothing wrong with but I do think Love and Thunder certainly pushed the envelope. I mean, when Taika Waititi in interviews is literally saying, I shouldn't even be making this movie. Like, I don't even know how Marvel's allowing me to make this movie. Then we probably should have been worried, right? And just like, okay, yeah, you've had your fun. Let's go ahead and bring something else in because, yeah, man, there's a lot of great material out there for Chris Hemsworth to go ahead and sink his teeth into. But let me know your guys' thoughts. What do you think? Do you think there's more out there for Chris Hemsworth to do as Thor? Do you agree with him? Would you like to see them drastically change the tone of these Thor films if they, in fact, were to go ahead and do a fifth one? Let me know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. Double C says Thor Love and Thunder has officially passed $700 million at the global box office. Damn. So he's still making money. Chris Hemsworth as Thor is still making money at the box office. Let me see if I can. Thor Love and Thunder budget. Was it like $200 million? How much? $250 million. Damn. Okay. Well, look, the movie definitely broke even at least, or at least definitely made that not broke even, but this movie definitely made its money for sure. So I don't think anybody is really crying, if you will, about how the Thor movie did. $700 million is nothing to sneeze about, man. That's still a ton of money. And I'm sure that Chris Hemsworth would come back for another Thor film. And it's one of those things where I would probably expect it to make less money just because of the mixed reaction that maybe Love and Thunder got. But if you come back with a new Thor movie with a new tone and a new vibe, and it's impressive and you get word of mouth, I mean, you can continue to push out these juggernauts of Thor films, honestly. So, yeah, I do think we're going to get ourselves a fifth Thor. I don't think there's any slowing down at this point. Let's see here. What else are you guys saying? Roberto says, congratulations on 1.19K subscribers. Thank you. Yeah, we're almost up to 1,200 subscribers here, guys. So thank you very much for all your continued support. Listen, if you continue to love our content, hit that like button. Feel free to share these videos. Talk to your friends about us if people are looking for a home for their nerd pop culture news. I know there's a bunch of us out there, but I think we have our own personalities and bring our own stuff to the table. So yeah, we're continuing to climb here, and I do think even the JDF tribute, I think, really contributed to a lot of that, honestly. Marcelino says, do you think the ending Jane Foster got was to set her up for future projects or to give the character closure? I never saw it as a foreshadowing for future projects, but to give closure. I kind of saw it as closure, thinking about the idea of Natalie Portman returning to the MCU was already a shocker, right? But I feel like they brought her back and she probably wanted to come back because they literally had a legit role for her in Jane Foster. Outside of that, I don't know if Natalie Portman enjoys making comic book genre movies like that to the point to where she would want to return. So the way that Thor 4 ended, it felt to me like it was a thank you, Natalie Portman, for coming and being cast and doing this role and doing it marvelously. This is our farewell and we appreciate you type of thing. And so, yeah, I definitely very much saw it as closure, but I do think it's still set up in a way that if you ask me if Natalie Portman wanted to return with as much stuff and shenanigans as we've seen happen in this Thor world and things like that, I have a feeling somebody could probably return from Valhalla if they certainly wanted to or absolutely needed to. So I do think there's a world that we live in where she returns, but I do think that this was set up as a closure in the sense of a just in case. You know what I mean? So yeah. Even Dano Knight says, I always saw it as closure, the way that the character herself wasn't just a one-off after becoming Mighty Thor. This easily gives possibilities that she could return or a new variant of her. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see here. Let's continue along the world of MCU. As we were just talking about this, Carter Matthews, I believe it was Carter or somebody. Oh, Double C needed some, needed Marvel to do something a little bit different for us. And this is where we get into our Ant-Man and the Wasp bag. Now, we just had Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Rest in peace, Chadwick. We just had that movie drop here in November. That is the end of phase 4 as we know it. So if you guys want to go ahead and rewatch your MCU all the way up to phase 4, please do. That's what me and the girlfriend is certainly thinking about doing. We just started the first Avenger the other night, late at night, and I fell asleep to it. But we have started our MCU chronological timeline order as we're going to be rewatching the MCU stuff. But phase 4 is completed. So you can go ahead and check out phase 4 if you'd like to. And the movie that kicks off Ant-Man and the movie that kicks off phase 5 that's set to go ahead and drop this upcoming February is none other than Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, starring good old Kang the Conqueror, y'all. Here's a blow-up photo of that there, as you get to see Paul Rudd as Scott Lang and Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror, or at least one of his variants. This is going to be intense, man. This is going to be intense, I feel like. When I think of this, just seeing Ant-Man against a Kang or just face-to-face with Kang, I just think good things can't possibly happen in this movie, can it? So let's go ahead and dive into this a little bit. It says Kang's arrival in Ant-Man and the Wasp has a profound impact on the MCU. It feels like it's really going to be shaking the foundation. It says, while 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp was a palate cleanser, a chance for the audience to draw breath after the shocking cliffhanger of Avengers Infinity War and Quantumania is a different kind of Ant-Man movie. And the arrival proper of Kang is set to have major reverberations that will ripple into 2025's Avengers, the Kang Dynasty. Peyton Reed, the director, he says, I think it has a profound impact on the MCU. He also says Jeff Loveness, who wrote this movie, is also writing the Kang Dynasty as well. So there's been a lot of discussion about the impact that this appearance of Kang the Conqueror makes. There are big things in store. And that's one of the things that immediately grabs my attention, is that for Kang Dynasty, they brought in Jeff Loveness, the writer that also did Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. It feels very much like Jeff Loveness is setting something up in this particular movie where he will then have the control to make it kind of come full circle to what we eventually get into the Kang Dynasty. So I am really fascinated to see what Jeff Loveness is going to do with this movie. It says for audiences, it'll be a chance to see a different flavor of what Majors can bring to the Kang's alternate selves. It also says, don't expect a retread of He Who Remains, that knockabout energy. Kang the Conqueror in our movie is a very different character, is what the director teases. He's someone who has dominion over time, and he's a warrior and a strategist. It says, sorry, they keep moving this. Given that Ant-Man's previous villains have been lower level threats like Yellow Jacket and Ghost, this was an opportunity to have him face, as Reed calls it, an all-timer antagonist. Our diminutive hero is facing a villain as huge as they come. That's interesting to me, to take the tiniest and in some people's mind weakest Avenger and put him up against this absolute force of nature. Something tells us it won't be a Quantumania of solace for poor Scott Lang. Wait, did they just say, did they just try and put in Quantum of Solace? And they really tried to hit us with like a pun in this last this last sentence, didn't they? But I gotta say, heed this warning from Peyton Reed. This guy is not like Ghost or Yellow Jacket. This guy is a heavy hitter. When he refers to him as an all-timer antagonist, even he understands what that certainly means when it comes to the Kang the Conqueror character. Our diminutive hero is facing a villain as huge as they come. And look, I think Jonathan Majors is already such an incredible talent. I mean, the guy just simply moves me with his performances. There's a new movie he's in, I think, called Devotion, I believe, where he plays like a a jet pilot, for like a jet fighter. Um, it looks pretty good. It looks like it's a period piece also, but it looks pretty good. I think Jonathan Majors' range is incredible, and I think it's one of the reasons why they brought him on here. The idea of like, hey, we want you to play like 3 or 4 versions of this one character and do them uniquely different. I went back and watched the Loki season finale like 3 or 4 times. Is just captivating. If you haven't seen Loki, I would highly recommend check out the Loki series. I mean, the wait all the way up to episode 6 or the finale was well worth it when you got the opportunity to see Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains, who I certainly thinks is more of a rendition of the Immortus character for Kang the Conqueror, if anything else. I wish that they would just name him as Immortus. That's who it felt like to me. But maybe there's more of this variant to certainly see. And maybe they do have Immortus in mind at some point in time, but I feel like we've seen the Immortus variant of King the Conqueror. But just from the trailers alone, and I kind of want to see more of from the trailers, it feels very much like a Land of the Lost situation where we find Ant-Man and the rest of his crew kind of really stuck in a world in the quantum realm and the aspects of the quantum realm that they're just not familiar with, new characters, new creatures, and things like that. And it seems very much like Kang the Conqueror has very much built a world for himself here. And so to be able to see the levels of power that he has at this particular realm, I love his costume. The suit has just looked fresh. Everything from what I've seen briefly of this particular movie, trailer wise, it has my attention. I definitely want to see more, but there's a level of intensity. There's a level of, I don't even want to say dread, but it just feels like something big is coming. You know, the ultimatum that Kang even gives him in the trailer of, I can get you guys back, sort of thing, to your particular world, makes me wonder what Scott's gonna give up to have to go back. Does he make a deal with Kang? Who certainly knows, but when they refer to him as warrior, as strategist, it almost makes me feel like these characters are way in over their head and they've never met anybody like this dude before. And I do think that he is officially going to shake up the MCU. And it's to the point to where I think the decision that I think Scott Lang makes in this movie is what has that profound impact on the MCU and maybe what Kang does in regards to that decision or ultimatum or whatever these two are certainly discussing. So I'm going to be really interested to kind of see how this movie flips the MCU on its head, because I do think that there is certainly something there, even though we haven't necessarily gotten a full peek behind the curtain. But that movie, if I'm not mistaken, drops this upcoming February for you guys, and something to really look forward to. It feels like this is the type of movie where, again, you push on that accelerator just a little bit more as we're getting closer and closer to new Avenger films. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it turns out, guys. But listen, you hear this stuff from Peyton Reed in regards to what we can expect from the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania movie. Are you expecting big things? Do you think it's going to be another letdown like Ant-Man and the Wasp? Or is there something feel different about this one? Definitely go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts. Because honestly, after the second Ant-Man movie, I had really no appetite for a third one. When they announced Peyton Reed was coming back to direct, I was like, I don't really care. It's not until they announced Jonathan Majors coming in as Kang that my ears certainly picked up again. I guess I just got tired of the small neighborhood adventures for Ant-Man. Like the first one was great. It was such an incredible sort of origin film for an MCU character. I absolutely love the first Ant-Man. But I think Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man and the Wasp to me just felt off. I don't think it helped either that it took place like after Infinity War. It just felt like a weird placement for it. Like I get it, I get why they placed it there, but it was just a really weird placement for the film that kind of threw me off after the epicness of Infinity War to then go to this smaller type of film. The script just wasn't as solid as I wanted it to be. So the fact that we got ourselves a new writer on board and Jonathan Majors on board also really made me start paying attention to this film. And I think we're finally going to get Ant-Man back at his greatest here. But it does make me worry. I can't lie. It does make me worry. Look, we're introducing Cassie Lang in here as Stature, if I'm not mistaken. I believe she eventually will go on to become a Young Avenger her own self, or at least so much in the comic books. We still got Hope here as the Wasp, and I'm kind of curious to know what's going to happen with Hank and Janet. So I don't think everybody's making it out of this movie, guys. I really don't think everybody's making it out of this movie, but it is the MCU, right? So everybody might live for all I know. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys are feeling about, especially after hearing all of this. We got Johnny Marrero in the house. Thank you. We also got Johnny. He says, hey, Adam, do you think that with Bob Iger back, do you think we can get him stop the Marvel animated layoffs and save the shows like Marvel's What If Season 3 and Spider-Man sophomore year? Did they really cut down their animation division? Because I highly expect What If Season 2 and Spider-Man. Oh, I'm thinking freshman year. I don't know. I think I have a like I don't know if he's going to completely redo everything that Bob Iger did. I think some things he'll certainly keep in the place, but I think some things will go back to being, what it was like under his watch, which was successful. Marcelino says, I heard MODOK will be in Ant-Man 3. If the rumor of Corey Stoll playing MODOK is true, then I can't wait to see you rage quit. Yeah, man. Look, I'm just not a fan of Corey Stoll. I'm just not. I don't know if I don't want to say I don't know if I've seen this man in anything that I've liked. I feel like maybe there are a couple things he's been in before that I'm like, oh yeah, that's not too bad. But Corey Stoll, he just doesn't do anything for me, man. Like he's just not a believable actor so much, or at least maybe he might be a believable actor in other things, but his role as Yellow Jacket, God, just some people you see on camera and you're just not a fan of theirs, man. Corey Stoll is just one of those guys. I just don't think he's the greatest actor in the world. So I would be a little bit bummed, but it might be funny to see his big ass head in the MODOK suit, though. Can't lie there. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts in regards to Quantumania. I thought I saw somebody shout out Black Panther here, or Ram Jam Black Panther 2. Was awesome. Yeah, me and the girlfriend really enjoyed it. I think the gentleman that played Namor, Tenoch Huerta, incredible, bro. Incredible. I thought he did an amazing job bringing Namor to life. I look, there are so many incredible performances in that movie. Angela Bassett, Letitia Wright. The list goes on and on, guys. Even a surprise appearance by somebody I did not. Well, I don't want to say I didn't expect him, but I didn't know where he was going to fit into all of it. So to see Letitia Wright as Shuri bump into this person, she's like on her astral walk or whatever the case may be. I thought it was actually pretty cool, man. And I thought it was a really interesting twist to to her character and her journey. Honestly, in general, was the last person I certainly expected to see. Love the post credit scene, although my girlfriend, I believe, rolled her eyes at it a little bit. We had our own thoughts about it. Maybe we'll do a spoiler review for you guys in regards to Black Panther 2. I'm surprised we haven't really done a lot of spoiler reviews for Marvel movies in a while. We didn't do one for Thor Love and Thunder. We didn't do one for Black Panther 2, but I do think at least for Black Panther 2, it is certainly worth a spoiler review. So maybe I'll try and see the movie again one more time and get the fellas to sit down and record something with me. Gabriel, what's up, Gabriel? It's that time of the year, so I have to ask, do you consider Die Hard a Christmas movie? Um, I jokingly do. I jokingly do. Like if people say, Adam, what's your favorite Christmas movie? I'm like, Die Hard, Die Hard. Like I throw Die Hard out around all the time. But no, I don't. I think in my heart of hearts, I think just because it takes place at Christmas time doesn't make it a Christmas movie. I think there's got to be a message, a Christmas message in there somewhere. And I just don't know if the message of Yippee Ki motherfucker. I don't know if that's Christmas message, you know what I'm saying? Um, grab a couple drinks, meet a little friends. I don't know. I honestly don't. I joke around about it all the time. I'll jokingly throw it on my Christmas movies list for sure. It is a movie I will watch every Christmas though, if I can. So I mean, damn, technically, does that mean I make it a Christmas movie? Look, you can make Die Hard a Christmas movie if you want. Whatever you want to be your Christmas movie, you make it. Don't let anybody stop you. But for me personally, while I watch it every Christmas, I really don't consider it a Christmas movie. Don't throw stuff at me, please. Please. Caleb, hot take. 2 years is not enough for Bob Iger to raise up a successor. I personally would have poached Paula Kerger from PBS. She's an amazing executive and is well versed in kids' content. Caleb, I don't necessarily know Paula Kerger, but the fact that you do and you bring that up from PBS, I think that's a pretty good that's an interesting take and an interesting suggestion there for sure. I don't necessarily I can't say I don't watch PBS. I do watch PBS because of the kids programming, because of my son. He's on PBS in the mornings, usually watching some of the stuff that they put out. And I do watch their news hour that they do every week. It's every day, I should say. So, God, am I getting old? Oh, I don't know. But thank you for the suggestion, Caleb. Maybe I'll have to look up Paula Kerger and see exactly what she's been doing as far as executive work. But yeah, 2 years with everything that Bob Iger does, I feel like that's like a 4 or 5 year successor plan. I do wonder if it's one of the reasons why the Bob Chapek thing didn't necessarily work because it was such a quick turnaround. But they'll definitely certainly try. I'm sure they'll probably bring in somebody that's got some experience and just not none at all. You know what I mean? All right. And Marceline says, yes, please do a spoiler review. Yeah, I'll talk to Indy and Stewart and see what day they're capable. Maybe it's something we'll pre-record and then drop for you guys one day instead of doing it live. But I'll talk to them. I'll talk to them. Not necessarily in the world of the MCU, but jumping along with the Marvel characters, we're going to talk a little Sony here today, guys. Because next up is the world of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, as we've got some new information, as it's really a hype piece, if you ask me. I'm a big fan of Lord and Miller and what they've kind of created. Not necessarily just Spider-Man work, but their past stuff as well. But I do think that they have become amazing additions to Sony. Where, if you ask me, if there was anybody handling sort of the Spider-Man-less Sony universe of Marvel characters that they've been playing with, I would probably really want Lord and Miller to helm that section. Unfortunately, Sony has not. And we've gotten things like Venom 1 and Venom 2, along with Morbius. So forgetful films. But when you look at what Lord and Miller are doing in regards to the animation side of things for Miles Morales as Spider-Man, the ambition is beyond this world. And not just that, but also they're working on the TV Spider-Man TV series or TV universe for Spider-Man. I think they got like a Silk series that's coming out also. So they are constantly at work. But this week, Lord and Miller came to talk a little bit about Across the Spider-Verse and the different art styles that we're going to be visiting. Because I mean, just the trailer alone kind of teased it, but it looks like we're getting to the point of masterpiece on our hands. If you ask me, I haven't even seen this movie yet. Oscar nominated. I mean, the first one won an Oscar, if I'm not mistaken, for best animated animation of that year. And you got to think that Across the Spider Verse is going to be another contender, especially after this. It says Empire Magazine again, man. Empire Magazine. Look, I might even have to pick up the physical copy of this Empire Magazine of the Indiana Jones on the cover because it seemingly has a bunch of articles for us to decipher here this week. But it says Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse will have 6 dominant art styles. The ambition is to wow you. So they are purposefully going balls to the walls here. They definitely want you to be impressed. It says so much so that the 2023's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse isn't just one sequel, it's 2. A double whammy of multiverse hopping madness set to conclude in 2024's Beyond the Spider-Verse. That wild ambition means eye-popping visuals are about to get even more dazzling too. This is what they say. The first film had one animation style that dominates the movie. This movie has 6. Laughs the returning producer Phil Lord. So we're taking those tools, added all the things we learned on the Mitchells versus the Machines, and then growing them further to accommodate the ambition of this movie, which is to wow you every time we enter a new environment, and also to make sure that the style of the movie reflects the story and that the images are driven by feelings as opposed to some egg-headed art project, which it also is, by the way. As the title would suggest, expect an epic trek through various spider realities. It says the 2 that you saw in the teaser were what's called Earth 5101, which we're calling Mumbattan. That's based on an Indian comic book look, and Nueva York from Spider-Man's 2099's world. So yeah, we've got Mumbattan, which is based off in an Indian comic book look, and then we've also seen Nueva York from Spider-Man 2099's world. He says that's based on side Mead style illustrations of what the future might look like. There's also Gwen's world, which is Earth 65, and that was a watercolor wash style that's reminiscent of the covers of her comic books. Um, yeah, it says Miles' journey has already begun. So I think this is just hella ambitious, if you ask me. I mean, the first movie had the storyline there for us. I mean, the movie just did not drop the ball at all. I mean, I think we all felt for Miles Morales. Really loved being on his origin journey and invested in his story extremely well. I think they had some great chemistry that they built between him along with Gwen Stacy, even Peter Parker past his prime and things like that. Just some really moving moments. Even his relationship with his father, his uncle that turned out to be Prowler, not just visually interesting, but story wise, very much very intelligent and very well thought out film. I can understand why it certainly won an Oscar. So to take that same level of storytelling and ambition and that mindset and just springing it forward with a vast array of different art styles, man, that's just like adding layers on top of them already what is a masterpiece. To really, like they said, the ambition is to wow you, and I have no doubts whatsoever that that's exactly what they're going to achieve with this particular movie. It's interesting that they don't give us all of the worlds. I think they just reference Mumbattan, Nueva York, and Gwen Stacy's world, which is Earth 65. I got to assume we're still keeping the same art style for Miles' world. So what? That's like two more art styles that we haven't maybe seen or been fully introduced to as of yet. So I'm really interested to kind of see what they're definitely going to look like here. But I think it was pretty brilliant. I mean, I remember when we talked about this initially, I think it might have been me and Stuart talked about this initially. The idea of as he crosses into different universes, that he would be having different art styles. I didn't know it was going to be 6 different art styles, but just that idea alone is pretty fascinating to me, man. And I think for me too, because as a comic book fan, what has always gravitated me towards a comic book is its art style. There's probably a lot of comic books out there that I did not pick up or not interested in just because when I go to the comic book store, I pick it up off the shelf, I open it up. If I'm not impressed, if the art style doesn't move me in some way, I'm putting it back up and looking. Look, I'm sure that's bit me in the ass quite a few times in regards to missing out on some great complex storytelling from other writers and things like that. But I'm just very a visual type of guy. So for me, who's always been very interested in art styles when it comes to comic books, I am visually very much interested in seeing what the Across the Spider-Verse is certainly going to do, because I do think once we get into each universe, it's gonna give us just completely different vibes and such a completely different emotional connection to that particular Earth or world that we're certainly going to. So I think we're definitely in for a treat, if you ask me. And another reason why we should be paying attention to this movie when it comes to Oscar season, whenever that certainly will be for this particular movie. But let me know your guys' thoughts. What's your level of excitement for Across the Spider-Verse? The fact that you know it's going to have 6 dominant art styles, does that fascinate you even more? Look, I'm going to see this movie in 3D regardless, probably like IMAX 3D regardless. So I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts. Blossom says you're totally not alone on that, Adam. As an artist, I'm totally in. Yeah, I thought of you, Blossom, when I read that too. I thought to myself, I was like, oh man, this might be right up Blossom's alley, considering how creative that she certainly is. So I'm glad you appreciate art as much as I do. Johnny says, I still hope that we see a spin-off films and series from Across or Beyond the Spider-Verse, with one featuring Gwen and Spider-Woman and many more. Well, you know, I know that they are at least making live action films, at least in the sense of like Madam Web, and I think Silk might be a live action series. I could be wrong though. Don't quote me on that. But as far as like spin-off films and series from Across and Beyond the Spider-Verse, I would like to see a Gwen Stacy movie at some point in time, live action. I think that would be great. You know, one of the predictions that we've had here for quite some time, even before they announced the sequels, is, you know, I've always been a believer that Miles Morales deserves his time, apparently, or eventually, I should say, as a Spider-Man in live action form. You know, I think the hardest part about making a Miles Morales movie, at least at the time before Into the Spider-Verse, was the lack of knowledge that people had about that character, right? Like people immediately associate Peter Parker with Spider-Man. And so the idea of them announcing, hey, a new Spider-Man movie featuring Miles Morales, people are gonna be like, who? Who the fuck is that? Who's that guy? No, no, it's Peter Parker. What are you guys talking about? So in order to really sort of crack into the mind of the general public, I think it was brilliant to come out with a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with an animated Miles Morales. Set the tone, set the precedent, right? Set the origin story here for people to see. Let us know that there is another Spider-Man out there. And they did that amazingly. And again, won an Oscar for it. So you want to talk about first impressions? Miles Morales had an incredible first impression as Spider-Man, and now people know who he is, or at least are getting familiar with who he is. And there's a part of me, and I've said this even after the first movie dropped, there's got to be a way that you take this Miles Morales that we've met and take him out of his animated world in some way or another into a live action world. And so when you announce sequels to Into the Spider-Verse and it's across the Spider-Verse and beyond the Spider-Verse, I'm like, man, are are they listening to me? Are they paying attention? And the one thing I'm predicting is I do think by the end of this trilogy, I have a feeling that maybe either Miles does not find his way back home and he gets trapped in a live action world, or something happens and his world then does become live action. But there is a part of me that feels like at some point in time, regardless, the end game of these films is to maybe bring Miles Morales into the world of live action. Tom Holland may only want to be Spider-Man for such a short period of time. Who knows? Maybe Tom Holland continues to be the Spider-Man for the MCU, and maybe this is a way for Sony to create their own Spider-Man and leave Miles Morales to that world, to the Sony universe world. Who knows? But I do feel like, again, my prediction is by the end of this Beyond the Spider-Verse, these trilogy, I do think somehow, some way, Miles Morales will be a live action character at some point in time. And that is the only spinoff I personally need, Johnny. No, give me a Gwen one too. I'll take that also. Dino Knight says Adam's birthday is this coming month. Yeah, December 30th, guys. December 30th. What's up, Roy? Good to see you in here. Shia gonna be in Indiana Jones 5? I don't think so. No, I think Shia LaBeouf had his time in the sun. As was the Indy's kid. Yeah, nah, I don't see him coming back. Ram Jam says, I wonder if they will have the Toei Spider-Man in Into the Spider-Verse sequel. I would say yes. I would say yes. I don't know if it's going to be across the Spider-Verse, maybe beyond the Spider-Verse, but I do think within the next two movies, I do think a Toei Spider-Man will happen. Marcelino says maybe they'll have Daisy Ridley play Spider-Woman and maybe even play her live action debut. That would be pretty cool. What's Daisy Ridley been up to since Star Wars, man? I would love to see her in more things. Roy says, get Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man, please. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think he had a proper send-off in No Way Home, but we'll definitely see. Blossom says the Spider-Verse in different styles is totally amazing. I mean, holy macaroni. Roy, Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk. Yes, I do believe that will happen. That's just me. I do believe that Harrison. Like, my thing is, I almost felt like, no disrespect to the gentleman that played General Ross prior to Harrison Ford, but I do feel like the General Ross character is probably somebody like you can get anybody for that role if you truly wanted to. I think the fact that they get somebody like a Harrison Ford to do that movie, to me, just says like, yeah, we're really going above and beyond to pull off this Red Hulk thing. But that's just my assumption. Datilla says, I can see a post-credit scene where Miles pulls off his mask and he sees that he's in a real world, but we don't get to see him yet. Like him taking the mask off, but you only see it like point of view, like maybe the spider eyes, and then you see the black kind of get pulled up, but yeah, you don't see his face. Oh, that would be pretty cool to tell. I kind of dig that reveal. I can't lie. I kind of dig that reveal. Dino Knight says Daisy was on a murder mystery movie that took place on a train. Oh yeah, the Murder on the Orient Express. That was a pretty solid murder mystery. But yeah, guys, great stuff. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the 6 art styles of Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse. Are we in for another Oscar winner here? I definitely think so. But let me know your guys' thoughts. And last but not least, guys, we're going to get into our movie bag here a little bit and talk a little bit about Avatar: The Way of Water, as we went ahead and just got ourselves a second official trailer here this past week. It's been out for like 5 days. I think it's amassed like 10 million views already, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, my cat's in the room. She needs to go out. Hold on. Hold on a second, guys. Hold on. I got you. I got you. I got you covered. Gotcha, can wait. um, yes, Avatar: The Way of Water went ahead and dropped the brand new official trailer. And guys, can I be honest with you? December 16th is right around the corner, and I'm really excited for this film. Like, I'm getting more and more excited for this film. It is breathtaking. Like, just a trailer alone, I will say. The trailers alone look breathtaking to me, visually stunning. I would never put it past James Cameron to give me an ugly looking film. I think just some of the shots alone in here are just really incredible. There's a great shot towards the end of the camera that feels very GoPro on the back of like the flying dragon or whatever. And you can see it's like literally looking at Jake as he's holding on for dear life riding this dragon. It's just a close up like GoPro shot of him. And you could just, it just feels like you feel the vibrations of him on the dragon, the wind blowing through his hair, the sun shining. I mean, it looks intense, man. It looks like it's going to be something really special. And I say this all the time, don't sleep on James Cameron. I know that there are a bunch of haters out there for the first Avatar movie, but listen, I'm going to be honest with you. There's a reason why Avatar has made so much money. And people want to complain and say, oh, well, maybe it's only got that much money because of the re-releases, the re-release. No, this movie was number one at the box office for years. Even before the re-releases. And the only way that you get to that point is people loving your movie and multiple viewings and word of mouth. And look, maybe some people will say, it only did what it did because of the advances in technology and how great it went. People went for the spectacle because of the 3D. I mean, that's good and all, but number one at the box office for years because if it was a 3D movie. Like, there's a lot more that certainly goes into it. And look, not everybody appreciates the first one, and that's more than fine. Maybe it's not a movie that struck you. You know what I'm saying? Not every movie hits people the same way. That's why movies are certainly, what is it? Subjective, objective? I don't remember. But there's a reason why everybody certainly has their own opinions when it comes to films. But I just think that James Cameron does an amazing job of really capturing universal themes that us as people can all certainly relate to. And I'm really fascinated to kind of see what this movie turns out to be about. I think watching the trailer, one of the things that really astonishes me is I love the fact of seeing Jake having created a family of his own. He's like full on Navi now. It doesn't feel like he maybe, I have to see the movie first, but I'm kind of curious if he still talks about his human life at all. Some of the shots that we've seen of him raising his family have been pretty wholesome. And I think even in this second trailer, seeing like his own son trying to make his own mark in this movie is pretty impactful for me. Like, this feels like this is going to be a family movie. And I think it's and I say that in the sense that we're going to see his kids grow. A generational movie is probably more apropos as to what I'm trying to say. But I do think, like, when you see him, well, first off, clearly the Navi that Jake is a part of has been pushed out of wherever their home certainly was. And now that they're at the beaches, at the ocean, they're now coming to other Navi, other tribes that are comfortable living out here that maybe they haven't really connected with. I don't know if there's any animosity between these two tribes, whatever, but it feels very much like, hey, you're our people. You're more than welcome. Let's see if you guys can kind of fit in. And one of the things I even noticed too from this trailer is that the Navi from land and on sea have two like different shades of blue to them. The Navi from the forest seem like they're much more like a brighter blue, whereas the other Navi feel like from the ocean feel very more aqua blue, a little bit more tealish, a little bit lighter, if you will. So it's like they're different complexions and stuff. So I do wonder if there's a level of like racial tensions between the two factions. You already see like some of the sea kids teasing the forest kids a little bit, especially when it comes to like holding their breath underwater, right? It feels like while Jake is probably going to be the focus, it almost feels like it has a coming of age attribute to it, especially if they're going to be talking about his kids and really highlighting his kids, right? His daughter seemingly has some sort of connection to this world, can like hear the heartbeat of that particular planet that they're on, of Pandora. The son seemingly has a love interest possibly in here, maybe wanting to impress her a little bit, become one with the tribe. Who certainly knows? But just seeing him like have to deal with the trial and error and failing sort of thing. Like I love the shot of him literally wrapping his arm and like tightening his hand with the strap onto the sea creature, almost like he's about to go ride this rodeo for the first time, sort of thing, and seeing him fail. And the idea of like, man, I guess they do have to work and change their lungs, right? Like they're not sea creatures per se. And now they're very much living like fish out of water in this new home of theirs. So again, I do think that there are things that us as viewers can all connect with, whether or not we were Jake's son at some point in time, or have had people pick on us before, or like there's so much more to this movie clearly. But I do think again it's the work of James Cameron, the character work, in the depths that he certainly goes to connect with the general audiences. Doesn't matter if they're avatars or if they're blue creatures on the screen. I do think that there's going to be plenty for us to connect with and have some sort of emotional tie to. And you put that on top of the Navi story of pushing back intruders onto their land and trying to save their family and protect the ones that they love. I mean, God, those are stories that across just our history and time and space, you know what I'm saying, that we've all seen over the years, and we've seen its impact. So I do think we're gonna have something special on our hands yet again. Some people might be surprised and have no idea that this is coming, but I really do think that something special is about to happen when it comes to Avatar: The Way of Water. And it's gonna be a friendly reminder that while this movie hasn't been in pop culture minds for nearly a decade, I think this movie's about to come out swinging and remind everybody why the first Avatar made so much money. And so good luck. Do I think it's gonna make what Avatar did? No. I think what also helped Avatar was we were just in a completely different time. Where I think it also had the ability to maybe stay in theaters a little bit longer than most. It was a long movie already, so not a lot of showings, but maybe stayed in theaters for quite some time. It'll be interesting to see how well Avatar certainly does, but I do think it will certainly shock and move the box office. But yeah, man, I after seeing the second official trailer, I'm even more on board than what I certainly was before. But I get it. It's not for everybody, but I think we should all certainly go in there open-minded. Blossom says, I haven't seen Avatar since high school. I would say revisit it. I might actually go ahead and revisit it once again. Some people say it's a subpar movie. I personally don't. I do think it certainly holds up rather well, even without the special effects or 3D. But I would certainly suggest giving it another shot and checking it out for yourself. But listen, if you guys have had the opportunity to check out the Avatar: Way of Water second official trailer, definitely go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that, guys, that will wrap up all of our main topics today. Let's see here. Yeah, I think with that out of the way, I think you guys know what time it is, and that is time for live viewer questions. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Give me a minute, guys. I'm pulling up the YouTube page for us. If you did participate, thank you very much. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to all the questions today, but if not, I'll definitely go ahead and make a video for you guys and drop it as soon as I can, probably tomorrow or Tuesday. And just to give people a heads up, I do work from the office again this week. So I'm not going to be home all day to work on any content until I get home after 7 o'clock at night. So if some of my content tends to drop a little bit late this week, I do apologize, but that's just to give you guys a heads up. All right, let me go ahead and pull this up. Like, there are a couple things I still want to get to. I still got to do the Andor review. It's just been a couple of busy weeks here, especially with the holidays. You guys know what I mean? I mean, we had my folks come in for a couple of weeks. Cindy and her relatives just came in from like California, Arizona, Oregon. It felt like a freaking family reunion this week, guys. Spending Thanksgiving with them and them wanting to see the baby every day. I definitely stretched me rather thin in regards to my video commitments for you guys. So I do apologize, but it's family, it's family and it's the holidays. So I usually feel like the Thanksgiving, Christmas time tends to be a little bit hectic when dropping content, but we'll definitely continue to keep you guys updated with content each and every week. So I'll just be a little bit patient this week with me. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. So as always, if you guys want to go ahead and submit live viewer questions, you always can. Hold on a second. Did my thing freeze on me again? No, don't do it. Okay, here we go. So if you guys ever want to submit live viewer questions, always go over to our main YouTube page here. You can go ahead and click on this community tab. And usually on Wednesdays or any day after Wednesday, I will go ahead and post a live viewer question post, as you see here. Feel free to submit your questions and we'll get to it at Hero Report on Sundays. Let's go ahead and sort this out. Come on, bro. There we go. Newest first. Man, the lag is intense, bro. It's intense. Doomsday, are you last or is anybody else? Oh, we do have more. All right. Let's get into it, shall we? John Schuyler with the first question today. Appreciate you coming through, John. Man, why did I do that? I went to another screen and now my computer froze on me. Let me get some water while I wait. Okay, here we go. John Schuyler. This past week was very tragic with the unfortunate passing of JDF. He will always be Tommy Oliver, and one of the major reasons why the Power Ranger franchise has kept going all these years. And one of the things I loved from him is that he really enjoyed being with the fans and even helped out comic book stores by making appearances during the difficult days of the COVID-19 pandemic. My question is, which were some of your favorite tributes you've seen for JDF, and what did you think of the video message that Austin St. John put out for JDF, especially bringing attention and closure to their complicated relationship that they had for many years? I love the things he said in the video. My favorite quote he said was, "Once a Ranger, always a Ranger, brother. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger." You know what, John? Yeah, that got me too. That last line got me. For me, it just said everything, to me, it just said everything. Like, despite he didn't even have to say a lot, like I didn't know what I expected from Austin St. John, but what I got from him was perfect. You know, he was real in a sense that they hadn't always seen eye to eye together. You know what I mean? But there's a mutual respect and a connection and an understanding between them that it's like he was your brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so when it almost felt like he was at a loss for words too, to a certain extent. And I don't know how much they ever fully got squared away, but at least they understood each other and their differences, even if they didn't necessarily get along. But I think him saying once a Ranger, always a Ranger, brother, like for me was all he really had to say, you know? That just showed his camaraderie and his connection and his understanding of the impact of the situation and just the loss of a friend, a loss of somebody that he knew, regardless if they didn't see eye to eye. Like you knew this person, you know? Um, it's just really touching stuff, man. Really touching stuff. As far as some of the tributes that I've seen, I thought the Power Ranger one on Twitter was actually pretty good. Um, the Amy Jo Johnson one brought me to fucking tears, man. She did a great one where she was just a ball of tears. And she did a couple of songs on her piano for JDF. Spent some time with fans. I didn't watch the whole thing. I probably watched like half of it. I watched to like maybe through her second song as she finished, and she's just like, "This sucks," I was like, I completely agree with her sentiment, man. Like, just this just sucks. It just sucks. But I thought Amy Jo had a fantastic one, and then the Power Ranger one on Twitter, they had a great video. 'Cause I really enjoyed not only the music attached to it, but I love seeing like the Jason David Frank through the years and like the opening credits of his name. And I thought it was just so cool, not only going through his different forms, his morphing sequences, but just to see him over the years from MMPR all the way to Dino Thunder, man. It just goes to show you, like for me, it was just one, it was crazy going back down memory lane. But for me, it just made a really immediate emotional connection because that's how I remember him and knew him mostly. Um, and it's just a reminder that I just felt like he wasn't finished. He still had a lot more to give. So yeah. But those are some of the ones that really stood out to me. So thank you, John. Ram Jam. Hey, Adam. Hope you're doing well. I have a couple of questions. What were your thoughts on Austin St. John in the video he posted, paying his respects to JDF? Will this change the landscape of Power Rangers with the passing of JDF? Like, what do you think of the return of Bob Iger? Keep up the good work. Yeah, I didn't mind Austin St. John's video. I thought it was straight to the point and honest and raw. Didn't really have too much to say. You can tell that he was just stricken by grief and the loss of somebody that he knew. He was honest and open about the fact of them not seeing eye to eye on things. He didn't try and sugarcoat it into something that it certainly wasn't, and I got to respect him for it. And he understands the impact of this for sure, for sure. And I think he's gonna miss him. You know, I think he's gonna miss him. Doesn't matter what the situations were. You had impact on each other's lives in some way. And I do, again, I don't is there a part of him that wishes that they had squared this all away or had come to some sort of understanding or a better understanding where they do see eye to eye? Who knows? Maybe they did at some point and something else came up. Who knows? It just seems like Austin St. John and JDF's relationship has always been a complicated one, and I'll leave it at that. Especially with JDF's passing now, I feel wrong about even talking about it. Honestly, I just feel like Austin St. John just put the kibosh on it, said what he had to say, and it was just really touching. At least the once a Ranger, always a Ranger definitely hit me. Will this change the landscape of Power Rangers? I want to say it will. Um, this really even feels like the end of an era for me. Don't get me wrong. We got Austin St. John, we got Johnny Young Bosch, Karen Ashley, Captain Sutherland. You know what I mean? But like JDF was Power Rangers. And nobody else has really ever been able to fill that void. Austin St. John has kind of stepped up in the last, crossover on Beast Morphers and stuff. I would like to see him maybe even do more. I think he's doing a lot of cons. He's doing a lot of conventions, whatever he can. Who knows what Austin St. John's future can hold. He's got his own legal matters, right? But who else is stepping up in that void to do things that JDF did for the community? So I do think in some aspects it'll change the landscape of Power Rangers. it almost feels more appropriate now than ever to move on with this Hasbro Power Ranger stuff in a sense of really pushing it forward, to bringing in like a new era and a new beginning. It feels like. So I do think that the landscape of Power Rangers will change with JDF. I do think that we will feel a hole because like even I feel like there's a sense of emptiness in my chest now when I think of him. I feel like Power Rangers has lost such a, what's the word I'm looking for? Ambassador, you know? Um and I've just never seen anybody put in that type of work for this franchise like I've seen JDF. Um and so when I think of him now, even a week past, like the first 3 days were brutal, man. I don't even know if I have the message anymore. I'll tell you what I told Stuart and Indy if I still have it. And Indy's been taking it pretty hard. I was kind of hoping to have him on the show just to kind of talk about it a little bit, but this was November 21st. I think this had to be like 2 or 3 days after. I said, "I'm still so fucking sad, guys." When I think of him or read other people's posts, I just get this emptiness in my chest. Like I feel his loss. And Indy just said, "I can't, man." So I know he's handling it rough too. But it just feels like there's a hole there now? It's fucking sad. Marcelino Vasquez, what are some of your least favorite Mary Sues or Gary Sues ever to be created in fictional history? Off the top of my head, I don't really know, Marcelino. Maybe a list. If you could present me with a list. Yeah, maybe if you could do that, Marcelino. If you have any in mind, Mary Sue's, Gary Sue's. Maybe throw up a list here, either in the live chat or in next week's comments. And I'll let you know out of that list what's my least favorite. I can't think of any off the top of my head though. Oh man, this is massive. Gabriel, while I really enjoyed the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3 movie for what it was, I did wish it was better. Here's how he would fix it. After the events of Spider-Man 2, Harry continues to see visions of his father telling him to kill Peter. He wants revenge for his father's death and uses Norman's unused advanced goblin formula. The Goblin formula causes him to lose his mind and become delusional, similar with Norman in the first Spider-Man movie, but also lethal to Harry's body. Harry isn't aware of the Goblin formula slowly killing him, which causes his death at the end of the story. In the first half of the movie, Peter doesn't want to fight Harry until the symbiote bonds with Parker and causes him to become more aggressive, turning the situation from bad to worse. Remove Gwen Stacy from the story. No need for love triangles. Removing the element from the plot that Flint Marco was actually responsible for the death of Uncle Ben. Hated how Marco was retconned as Uncle Ben's murderer into having a connection with Peter, making the actual killer in the first movie completely pointless. Not all villains in Spider-Man movies need to have some connection to Parker's life prior to becoming a villain. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Flint Marco decision there, honestly. The whole major subplot of MJ giving Peter a hard time for not paying her enough attention to her Broadway shows, that was really unnecessary and made her totally out of character from the first two movies. Instead, MJ should be the one to keep pushing Peter to be better, even when he learned that Harry became the new Goblin. After escaping the authorities, the area Flint Marco falls in and causes him to turn into the Sandman as Oscorp property. It doesn't go unnoticed. Harry finds info on Marco, realizing he's a criminal and why he went to prison, stealing money to help raise the cure for his daughter. Harry plans to use the Sandman as the muscle. They team up and strike a bargain. If Sandman kills Spider-Man, Harry uses his wealth to help cure Marco's daughter. Later, Sandman stopped fighting Spider-Man when his daughter tells him she couldn't be cured. Flint decides not to become a villain and leaves with his family. The movie would end as a part one, teasing part two with Eddie Brock becoming Venom. Harry redeems himself and forgives Peter after finding out the truth of Norman's death. The fact alone, like, I will say this, I'm not a fan of a part one, part two sort of scenario there, but I dig the idea of taking Venom out of the movie entirely. Um, because I think it should have been either or. I think Spider-Man 3 should have been just a Venom movie or a Sandman and Green Goblin movie. I would totally agree with you there. So I would be perfectly okay with that, Gabriel. God, y'all coming back with these essays. Dino Knights Fight for Your Rights. This is my first interpretation and favorite part of the video I saw by a well-known Power Ranger content creator of a breakdown video on why having too many Rangers in Sentai, then having the series adapt into Power Rangers would be really hard, especially with the usual 22 minutes. The more you make the other Rangers leave for a period of time, the actors themselves get paid less. And if you only use a suit actor who is also a stuntman and does other things in production, those jobs are being vacant and have to find other people to work those jobs. This would repeat multiple times if each job was left open. Another huge example was Ryan from Lightspeed Rescue. While he was our first American-made Ranger, he was written out for half of the second half of the series due to the lack of Sentai footage, meaning Rhett Fisher himself had to be paid less than the other five main actors, similar to the pay as a physical guest star or voice actor. Wow. This is a completely different story now, with Cosmic Fury being 95% new original footage while only adapting the Zord footage for Q Ranger. The suit actors of the Rangers themselves would be portraying the monsters, villains, and henchmen. In some past seasons, it took 2 to 3 stuntmen across actors to play the same exact Ranger color, either their standard Ranger mode or power up. What do you think? Oh, that's interesting. Some interesting takes. It would be. I mean, I wouldn't say those are the only reasons that it would be really hard, but those are some interesting takes on it for sure. Some interesting reasons. He says, I also really wanted to ask this since we did not have a Hero Report last week. Since half of Cosmic Fury cast had lunch with David Yost yesterday, which they did post a video of them together. Does this clearly tell you that David Yost is definitely guest starring in Cosmic Fury? And I hope at least not just one episode. Um, I've always believed that David Yost is going to be in Cosmic Fury. If the Illuminati told me, I am in agreement with it. I feel like I've seen enough evidence already to believe that, yes, David Yost is going to be in Cosmic Fury. I only present it in a speculative way, though, because, you know, I just want to make sure it's accurate, right? Like if David Yost hasn't come out and actually confirmed anything, I don't necessarily want to present it as a confirmation, but in my head, I totally believe he's coming back. Yeah, at least for one episode in Cosmic Fury for sure. And I don't want to say I'm definitely not confident about Min being in Cosmic Fury, but there's a part of me that believes that Min will be in it also. That's just speculation on my part for sure. Michael Rhymes, what's up, fellas? We talked about this before, but you know how some people get tired of filler episodes in Power Rangers? In my perspective, filler episodes can still be great while having soul connection to the main story. So many other shows have filler episodes in order to progress character development. If we were to only get shows with no filler, then the show might be over sooner than we thought. Another examples of episodes that is a filler but connected to the overall main story is when the characters acknowledge what's actually going on, especially if a character is new and are still adjusting to their new environment. So with Cosmic Fury being 10 episodes, this will allow the story to be a primary focus. I do have some hope that these episodes are more than 20 minutes. I know Simon Bennett likes to give very little details as possible. There's no excuse for a show to only be 10 episodes unless it's with Hasbro's ideas. There are tons of other Netflix exclusive shows that are longer than 20 minutes with the same amount, like Cobra Kai series, even when they were exclusive to premium, which is the same amount of episodes of 40 to 47 minute each. Well, I do see Power Rangers and Cobra Kai as completely different. I see Cobra Kai as a drama, and I still see Power Rangers as a kids show. So I do think, taking that in mind, the idea of it being 20 minutes wouldn't surprise me, because it is a kids show. And I do think they still want it to be digestible, episodes to be digestible enough for children. So that would be the difference that I would see between something like a Cobra Kai. I mean, yeah, is it on Netflix? Can you make the episodes longer? Absolutely. I think that's what we're getting the MMPR reunion special for, to give us a nice 40 something minute length episode or movie or special or whatever you want to call it. But look, Dino Fury was written as one season. So was that 20 episodes maybe at 20 minutes, 22 episodes at 20 minutes, or 20, yeah, 20 episodes at 20 minutes. Um, so I think Cosmic Fury can be written as 10 episode season also with 20 minutes. It might feel way too short. Like, give me maybe 25 minutes, guys. Can I get 25 minutes? It might feel kind of short, but I also do think because of the fact that it's 10 episodes, those 20 minutes will be used incredibly impactful. I at least certainly believe that, Michael. But I understand where you're coming from. Blossom, as sad as it is to mention him, what was your favorite moment from Tommy? Personally, I loved how he became the White Ranger. If you saw my drawing tribute, my tribute drawing, I had a stuffed tiger as a reference to Saba. That's so fantastic. Yeah, look, one of my favorite moments, and I mentioned this prior on a hero report, I believe, or even maybe when we did our JDF tribute, was the white ranger reveal. um I was just there are three moments in, oh god, it's probably like four moments in JDF's career, Power Rangers, that have always emotionally impacted me. When he lost his powers because Jason couldn't save the green candle in time, that was heartbreaking. I think he had a sentimental moment with Kimberly in the park. I can't remember if that was when he was either leaving the team or he had lost his powers and they might have kissed. I can't remember if that's the same storyline where they shared a pretty emotional scene together. Tommy coming back as the White Ranger, because I did not expect that as a kid at all. And it was a huge surprise for me. And then Dino Thunder, the idea of seeing him, I can't remember, was he in a dream or a nightmare he was trapped in? And he goes through his alter egos and you see him. There's a great shot of him standing next to his other counterparts of Power Rangers colors that he's adapted in his career. All different heights, by the way. um, but those are always great. Some of my great memories, some of my great and favorite moments from Tommy. Um, Doomsday, with the passing of JDF this past Sunday, I just wanted to say that some of my favorite memories of him as Tommy were the introduction in '93 as the original Green Ranger, him finally being a well deserved Red Ranger in Zeo. Yeah, I remember, I love the fact that he finally became well, I don't want to say finally became a Red, because he was a Red in well, Turbo happened after. So yeah, I guess he finally became a Red in Zeo. Him passing the torch as the Red Ranger to TJ, his epic return to Forever Red and leading the Red Rangers into battle against the Machine Empire remains. Tommy becoming the Black Ranger in Dino Thunder, Tommy's return in Legendary Fail, and Tommy's legendary comeback in the 25th anniversary episode Dimensions in Danger. From Super Ninja Steel as not just one, not just two, but all of his colors, from MMPR green to Dino Thunder black, as a way to pay tribute to his legacy. I will say, while I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of the 25th anniversary, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind the 25th anniversary, but I appreciate even the extended cut of that even more, because of the fact that we get to see JDF fight even more. His passing literally hurt all Ranger fans, because regardless of whoever your all-time favorite Ranger is, whenever you think of Power Rangers, 99 times out of 10 you always think of JDF. So I was wondering what some of your JDF Tommy memories certainly were. So I kind of mentioned some of the Tommy stuff already. When it comes to JDF, as far as like some of his favorite my favorite JDF memories, oh man, it's probably anytime I hear this man speak. I think the last interview I watched him on was the viewing globe that the Illuminati did, when we were in the pandemic, right? And we couldn't have the Power Morphicon. um, you know, Joe Deckelmeyer from the Illuminati, and then they all put together an online YouTube convention of sorts called the Viewing Globe, that was run by YouTube Power Ranger content creators. And they had great segments on there. The Morphing Network, I think, even from Facebook, had some great interviews and stuff. It was a really cool event that the Illuminati and them certainly put together. I think they might have been teaming up with Power Morphicon to pull that off. I can't remember fully, But Joe had a great interview with JDF during the viewing globe. I thought it was really cool that JDF even wanted to appear and do a interview for it, right? I mean, I don't even know if Joe paid the man to even show up or if he just did it for free. It feels like he appreciated the idea of the Power Ranger content creators coming together and still giving something to the fans. And, one of the things, we can talk Power Rangers all day, but we also got to talk about the man that Jason David Frank was. And again, not everybody's perfect. We all make mistakes in our lives. We all struggle with our own personal things. We're never gonna live up to somebody else's expectation of us. Sometimes we get disappointed in what our heroes do or some of the actions in which they take. And so, there might be some things I don't personally know, but there might be some things in JDF's personal life that might have rubbed some people the wrong way. But I think that's something that we all go through. And I think sometimes we got to look past those things and really admire him for the man that he truly was. And I think a lot of people are. And I don't think that people are looking at the bad side of things, but I think people are really admiring him now more than ever, because I do think they understand just what he did for this franchise. Some of my favorite JDF memories just revolve around the idea of him literally carrying this franchise on his back for 20 something years, going to conventions when it probably wasn't even cool, public speaking, continuing to follow his craft in not only martial arts, but continuing to, open up schools and even push himself as a person in regards to diving into an amateur MMA, career of his own to see what he's fully capable of as a man and as a fighter. And always trying new things. The things that he managed to accomplish. I mean, whether that be doing videos for Bat in the Sun as the White Ranger or the Green Ranger, or popping up in a Street Fighter video because it's a Power Ranger crossover. I mean, the level of things that this man did for this franchise is just monumental, that I don't know if anybody can ever step into this man's shoes, honestly, at the end of the day. And I feel like when I hear his interviews, it's always so incredibly touching. It's always so incredibly motivating. So some of my favorite JDF memories is motivational speaking. Is trying to continue to give back to the fans every chance that he absolutely could, and to help make people become better people in the process. Um, Pushing people to overcome the only obstacle in their lives, which is unfortunately themselves. If you ever need a great motivational speaker, or if you ever need anything motivating said to you, go find you a JDF interview, man. It's powerful. And I said this before when I did the tribute, is that he knew what his platform allowed for him to do and say, and he used it to utter perfection, man. He truly did. So many people will talk about how much he's impacted their lives, and not only that, but he's such a goofball too, right? Like, I watched the tribute video to him, and people were talking about how just goofy he was, and he always made people laugh. Such a prankster, right? We could talk about all the motivational stuff all day, but how goofy he was. There's a video I watched of like him sitting in a limo and he's leaning up against the door, and the chauffeur comes around and somebody opens the door for him, and he knows somebody's coming to open the door for him, so he's leaning back and he's looking. The guy opens the door. He's like, ah, he pretends to fall out. It's so funny, but like, can you imagine living with this dude every day, or like just being on set with this guy and him just being this enormous energy? And I'm sure probably annoying to some people at times, but it's like, man, you probably never stop laughing. You probably never stop laughing. And it's just, it sucks when it's those type of people that get taken away from us. People that we need in this world more than ever, are unfortunately the ones that get taken away from us too soon sometimes. So, yeah, man, just some great memories. Some great memories. And even for me, when I personally met him back in like 2014, I think it was at the meet and greet here in Dallas. just the thoughtfulness of him and Catherine Sutherland to like literally rent out a pizzeria for like 10 to 15 fans to come and sit down and talk with them and get them whatever it is that they wanted, was able to, talk to everybody, made everybody laugh and feel comfortable, just shooting this shit for a couple of hours. I mean, just the thoughtfulness, man. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Nicole, what's up, Nicole? Let me see. What do you think of the rumors of the character White Tiger possibly appearing in the Daredevil revival series, played by actress Jenna Ortega? And what did you think of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever? Did it meet expectations, honoring Chadwick Boseman? So let me knock the first one out. First off, Jenny Ortega. Love her. If the rumors are true and she's being cast in White Tiger as White Tiger, yes, please. I'm just hyped for Daredevil to certainly be back. As long as White Tiger makes sense and it fits in there fine, then I'm perfectly okay with it. Like the Echo character from Hawkeye, didn't really care for her so much. The fact that she's getting her own series, don't really care for so much. But what I do care about really is the idea of Kingpin and Daredevil coming back for the Echo series. It almost feels like, again, I haven't seen the series, but it's like, man, I don't know who's hyped for an Echo series. And if they are hyped, it's probably not for the main character. And so my thing is like, I just hope that if they do introduce the White Tiger into Daredevil, that it's impactful enough and it's meaningful enough, and they're not just trying to make a character pop in here for any particular reason. I want this character to certainly have an impact, and if they can do that, then I'm perfectly fine with it. And the casting of Jenna Ortega would be amazing if you ask me. And what I think of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, did it meet my expectations honoring Chadwick Boseman? I personally think so. I Goodness, from the opening act or to the opening scene to the Marvel Studios logo, man, tears welling. I don't think I shed any tears, but you get that knot in your throat, right? Just beautiful, just beautiful. The ceremony and the parade that they had for him, and then the great Marvel Studios tribute, just a moment of silence, as you see the things flashing. That really just like, man, I can't believe he's gone. Like that really shocked me. And I'm gonna do this real quick for spoilers, okay? And when I do this again at the end, that means I'm done, okay? So spoilers right now, spoilers right now, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. If you haven't seen Wakanda Forever, but I even think the post credit scene or the mid credit scene was really interesting too in regards to honoring Chadwick. Um, there's two things of mind, and it was the mid-credit scene that made my girlfriend roll her eyes. And the reason why she rolled her eyes, her idea was, when they introduced Prince T'Challa, his son, she was like, oh, they're just introducing him because they're trying to find a way to already take the Black Panther mantle away from a woman. I'm like, babe, that's they're not even that's the furthest thing from my mind that they're trying to do. I mean, like, look, is Letitia Wright going to be Black Panther again if we get a third film? Who certainly knows? Maybe this is going to end up turning into various people that hold the mantle of Black Panther over periods of time, for all I know. Like, I really have no idea. Like, but I told her, I was like, babe, I don't expect them to do like a 10-year time jump and this kid's all of a sudden like 16 or 20 and he all of a sudden becomes a Black Panther. I don't think that's what Black Panther 3 is going to be all about. But I have no clue. But, you know, there were, when I look at that mid-credit scene, a couple things come to mind. One thing that comes to mind is, people complained a lot about the idea that when it comes to the MCU, that T'Challa is such an important character in the comic books that there always needs to be a T'Challa in the MCU, which is why people really pushed for the idea of T'Challa to be recast, right? It's such a pivotal character that you need a T'Challa at all times. I feel like this is Marvel's response to that, in the sense of, you're right. there should be a T'Challa in the MCU or in Marvel at all times. This is our way of attributing to that while also paying homage to Chadwick Boseman as King T'Challa. So that's how I kind of looked at that in one aspect. And two, I thought it was pretty interesting that T'Challa made that decision to keep his son secret. And he's been secret, what, for 6 years, I believe is what she said. And it's just interesting to me that T'Challa makes that choice, especially knowing what happened with Killmonger in the first one, because he was a secret too, if I'm not mistaken. That was hidden away in the States and nobody told it. Granted, completely two different situations, at least in the sense of, Homeboy literally got brought up and raised alone. His death of his father, and Homeboy just left him here in the States. Definitely a lot of animosity towards that for sure. But he was a secret. And so the fact of T'Challa also, and his father knew about this kid and didn't tell anybody. And T'Challa had a really difficult time coming to terms with that in the first movie. So for him to come to terms with that and then also make that same decision himself in the sense of, his time will probably come, but at least here, his mother knew. And clearly, I can't remember the character's name that Lupita Nyong'o played, but yeah, so her, T'Challa, and at least the mother knew that something else was out there, and they still kept it from everybody. So it's just an interesting echo, is probably how I would refer to it. Not necessarily the same situation, but very much an echo, it feels like, from the first one. And that made it even more impactful for me, for T'Challa to have sort of that forward thinking of maybe knowing that this day might come for him. You know what I mean? And that speaks volumes. And I think it also honors Chadwick and letting him know that your legacy is still going to continue in some way or another. But I thought they handled it extremely well, man, extremely well. But I could just be me. Before I get to the next question, I do want to jump into the live chat real quick and just see what some of you are saying. Marcelino, just curious what happened in your Titan season 4 review. Did you give up on the series, or is it just spending time with the family is more important? It's a combination of spending time with the family, and I just feel like since this series started, it has just started in like so unfortunate time for me. It felt like when it dropped, maybe my parents had just come into town. I had been working from home, so it was already getting late when I get back home, sort of thing. And I'm just like exhausted to be able to work on other things. It just feels like this time of the year, if something new drops, especially during November, December, during the crazy holiday seasons, and just getting prepared for everything, it just really just pulls my mind in like 3-4 different places. And again, not to say that I haven't watched it, because yes, I actually have been caught up to Titan season 4. I might actually rewatch episode 4 here again. But I have watched it. I just have not had time to literally sitting down in front of this camera and record and put together a thumbnail and edit it, sort of thing. It may be one that I wind up doing like an entire series review in regards to. But I am watching it. I just have not had any time, man, unfortunately. So I do apologize about that, Marcelino. JB says, what says, yeah, still hard to grasp in regards to the loss of JDF. Do you think, Kurt says, do you think the Hasbro reboot is still happening? Oh, if still happening, will have an impact from JDF's passing, or will just be what it wants to be going for? I think it'll just be what it wants to be going forward. And again, I almost think it would be a breath of fresh air right now. Double C says, JDF was the Rock of Power Rangers. Absolutely. Ram Jam, even the same thing, regardless of what people thought about JDF. He was Power Rangers. Absolutely. Dino Knight says JDF to me is the Tony Stark and Oliver Queen. I love it. Marcelino says the only Gary stews I see people call out are Harry Potter and Troy Burrows. Troy was totally a Gary Sue, bro. Totally a Gary Sue. But you said most Mary Sue's and Gary stews I see I disagree with. Yeah, the most common Mary Sue's I see are Ray, Captain Marvel, Arya Stark, but there are ones that are just a joke, like Dora the Explorer and Barbie. um, maybe Captain Marvel. I don't know. I have to rewatch it again. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, Marcelino. I might be in agreement with you. I don't think some of these are though. JB says, "What believes that they can tell a good story in 10 episodes?" I think so too. I think so too. I think they're capable. Brand Jim, I was just gonna bring that up. Because I was like, didn't Kimberly pass out when it was revealed? He took off the helmet and she literally collapsed. Lori, what's up, Lori? She says, I think Bob Iger will clean up Bob Chapek's doings. God, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I think so. I think so too. I think, look, I think the board of Disney understands and they knew exactly what Bob Iger brings to the table. And they're like, yeah, we fucked up. We fucked this up. We made a bad decision on Chapek. We need you back, bro. We need you back. But I think it's just cool that Bob Iger just, Papa Iger, he's back. He's back. Dizella brings up a good point. She says, JDF's passing to me at least showed why Hasbro continues to market MMPR. Look at that outpouring that JDF received. Absolutely. And I know people were tired of MMPR. I know people were tired of seeing JDF back, but you know what? People loved MMPR. It's what people recognize as Power Rangers. And I know it's frustrating for some people that are fans of other franchises, but this was its heyday. This was what made Power Rangers part of pop culture society. Like when I think of Tommy, when I think of JDF, I think of him as a pop culture icon, somebody that will literally stand the test of time, that people, even if you did not watch Power Rangers, you knew who the Tommy Oliver was. And I think that says a lot about JDF's impact. And it's just another thing of, we've been so spoiled by what he's given us that some of us have gotten to the point of being like, man, I'm so tired of this dude being on Power Rangers all the time. Can I get somebody else? But I think it also shows you that while we're spoiled, there is a level of taking him for granted because we thought this man would be around forever. You know what I mean? And when somebody gets taken away from you, I think it really just kind of puts things into perspective. So, however you felt about it, about JDF, I think a couple things that a lot of us can say was he was Power Rangers, and he carried this franchise on his back. Regardless if you got tired of seeing this man all the time, he did what he had to do, and he kept us around. He kept us around. The A Games 10 says, going back to the Bob Iger stuff, I saw the tweets from Deadline a few days ago and thought that they were just a parody type accounts trying to fool us. Nah, they were completely serious there for sure. Yeah, they were completely, not trying to fool us. That was definitely 100% legit. I didn't do this again. I hope you guys are spoilers over. Sorry. Francois, since the tragic passing of JDF, how do you think the character of Tommy will impact the future of the series in live action and comic book form? And for the 30th anniversary special, how do you think the MM Part team will react when and if they encounter Lord Zed? And do you think this reincarnated Lord Zed will remember or identify the team, since he was the one 1 from his most powerful form in season 2. Yes, I do believe he will recognize the team. Maybe this Zed maintains all memories of the original Zed. This new version of Zed from Dino Fury probably never met Rocky, Adam, Aisha, and Kat. I would also lose my mind if this new Zed had any connections to Trini and how Min comes in. That would probably blow my mind too, Francois. How do you think the character of Tommy will impact the future of this series in live action and comic book form? Well, comic book form, I think Tommy will definitely continue to go strong. There is a part of me, I do wonder if there's a sneaky cameo of him in the 30th anniversary special. I am legit curious if he got a chance to film anything for them. I know we know the main cast already, but I also know Amy Jo Johnson teased like some other surprises still yet to come. Whether or not that's, I don't know if she's directing the special or if they have a director for the special already, or if she's going to pop up in there. Who knows? But there's a part of me way, way, way back in my head that would have loved a JDF surprise cameo at this point. And if not, I do think that they will add a tribute to him at some point, even if it is, you know, um, in memory of Toy Trang and Jason David Frank, at the beginning or the end of the special. I can see them adding that in there regardless. So I don't think it'll impact the future of the live action stuff. At least maybe not Jonathan and Whistle stuff. I mean, maybe we might get like an Easter egg or a reference to JDF in the form of either maybe a Power Ranger weapon, or a suit, perhaps an armor type, maybe some sort of nod to the character. But I think that's probably to the extent of it. How do I think the MMPR team will react when and if they encounter Lord Zed? I think they're going to be hella surprised. I think they're going to have some questions for the Dino Fury team as to could you let this happen, guys? um, but I do think it's going to be a really interesting reunion, to say the least. Roberto, with the sudden passing of JDF, to honor him, what episodes aside from would you like to watch again? I probably want to go back and rewatch all of Dino Thunder. And what do you remember when he first returned as a mentor in Dino Thunder? I remember that his history and going through like the databases and stuff. And I always appreciated him as a mentor. I forget that when I think of mentors, people say, who's your favorite mentor? For some reason, I go immediately to RJ from Jungle Fury, I'm so used to Tommy being a force in Power Rangers or being a leader of a team. I forget sometimes that he's a doctor, he's an archaeologist, like homeboy's literally a mentor in Dino Thunder. But I always loved his talks with the team. It felt like some real life JDF stuff bleeding his way into Tommy with his mentorship for Dino Thunder. Do you hope we will get a reference from Kat on Tommy has been up to since Dimensions in Danger? Maybe Tommy had actually decided to retire as a Ranger permanently. We all know in Dino Thunder, Tommy said to Anton Mercer and the Trent that at the time he would retire as a Ranger and stay teaching paleontology in Reefside. I hope so. I think that would be pretty cool if Kat gives us a little update on their lives together. Stuart, what's up, Stuart? He says, this is just my own speculation, but for the MMPR reunion special, I would love if at the end we get a cliffhanger where we see Lord Zed appear at Angel Grove and Billy learns about the resurgence of Lord Zed, learning he is a past version of himself from when he was at his most powerful. We also learn that the cliffhanger took place right before Dino Fury Season 2 cliffhanger, which is right after the final battle. At this point in time, we don't know what else happened during those 6 months before Zato had returned and told the Rangers of Lord Zed's escape. Just like in real life, when we're doing something, we don't know what other people are up to. So I would love if the ending of the MMPR reunion special takes place right after the final battle of Dino Fury season 2, but right before the 6 month time jump to the actual clip. That's an interesting placement. That would be pretty interesting, Stuart, to see how they timeline wise where the MMPR fits into all of that. If it's after the actual time jump, or if it's before or like interconnected with the finale of Dino Fury season 2. That would be pretty interesting. We'll see how they pull it off, though. Kurt Marino, hey everyone, with Cosmic Fury going to be a continuation of Dino Fury and with the Rangers getting upgraded suits, if they were to continue using keys, what abilities you like them to have that have not seen in Dino Fury, unless they still using surviving Dino keys? I'm really intrigued to see how much of a difference Cosmic Fury will be when it comes to Ranger powers. We all know, aside from the upgraded suits, we're getting new Zords, maybe a duplicate key to make clones of yourself or turn invisible. I was going to say fly, but don't they have one that has wings already? If David Yost were to return to Cosmic Fury with MMPR special, do you think we'll see Billy morph one more time? I'll say no. Billy Morph in Cosmic Fury, no. I think he'll be there as mentor and scientist and teacher. I don't think he'll get into battle though in Cosmic Fury. I do think we'll see a morphing sequence in the special, but maybe not Cosmic Fury. That's just my speculation. Any other abilities though? I'm trying to remember what some of the we've already had like a shield one. We've had one that produces fire. Is there not one turn invisible already? The clones of yourself, I think, is pretty cool. I wouldn't mind like one gigantic Popeye arm, like one strong arm that you can literally destroy anything with or take down like buildings or walls or whatever the case may be. That would be pretty cool. If there's a super speed key, give me a super speed key. That would be pretty neat. Those are just, I'll just make that brief though. Chris Crossman, what's up, Chris Crossman? What do you think of the actor David Harbour revealing in an interview that he will be splitting his time the next coming year as the character Red Guardian in the Thunderbolts movie and his character on the show Stranger Things? He said that while his schedule is going to be incredibly hectic filming both projects back to back, he's very passionate about playing both characters, and that Marvel and Netflix studios will give him their full support. I mean, shit, I would. I think David Harbour is great in both of those roles. And if you can keep you know, both studios happy and both in agreement and working well with one another, I think that definitely does go a long way for future team ups or collaborations. But I think this happens all the time. I feel like maybe not exactly like filming everything all at once. You know, you would think that maybe actors would have their schedules set up differently, but I would assume that David Harbour has more things coming out than just the Red Guardian and the Stranger Things um role for him to tackle, for them to be like that overlapping or that right next to each other. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't take a whole year to put those two projects together. But I would assume it's because he has other things on his plate too. But he's a professional. I'm sure he'll be fine at that. And this might be the last one, Power Rangers Legacy tribute to JDF. That might be the last one. We'll see. I'll go ahead and tackle this quick and then we'll go from there. My tribute to JDF. Regardless of how you felt about the actor or the character, JDF and Tommy Oliver defined this franchise. While MMPR may have been a success without Green with Evil Saga, the franchise likely wouldn't have reached the heights that it did, nor have the longevity that it has had without the Green Ranger blowing basically every 5-year-old's mind that October in 1993. He will be remembered in the hearts of many as the greatest Ranger of all time. I remember when I met him at a con in 2016, we waited in line for a photo and autograph for over an hour, and we were almost there. A little kid who was probably about 5 or 6 dressed as Power Ranger or Green Ranger got to meet him. With a line of people waiting to pay him and flight to catch in a few hours, JDF spent probably a good 10 minutes just hanging out with this kid, talking to him, making a video with him as Tommy, answering all his questions. It was incredibly heartwarming. I can't speak for everyone there, but all I could think about is how much that would have meant to me when I was that kid's age. When we got up there, he was perfectly nice, but man, you could tell he was exhausted. It was the last day of the con, but he set everything aside and made a memory for that kid, and I'll never forget that. As a kid, my family wasn't the best, and I had no siblings. And it might be cringe to say, but Kimberly, Jason, Billy, Trini, and Tommy became my surrogate big siblings. There's nothing cringe about that, man. Older figures I could look up to and strive to be like. So every day I watched Power Rangers and pretended I was in a normal family trying to escape the reality of what was around me. So now it feels like I lost my oldest cool brother who taught me you sometimes got to break the rules to find a better path in life. Just never lose your way. And I'm really sorry to hear about that unfortunate passing for you. Power Ranger Legacy. I can clearly see how much he certainly meant to you. Um, I feel like this is a story that I hear often. And what I mean by that, though, is the sense of JDF going above and beyond for his fans all the time. Like, I can't even tell you guys, like, how many how many videos I've seen at a convention, at a comic book store, where they're just lines of people waiting to meet this guy. And it might be getting late, it might be later in the afternoon, and he literally will come out and tell everybody, I got you. Like, I'm here because of you guys, because of your guys' support. You guys motivate me, sort of thing. And he really let the fans understand like how they made him feel and how appreciative he was of them, and the fact that they were spending their hard-earned money, their hard-earned time to be in this line just to meet him meant everything. And I think he understood the impact of what each individual meeting with somebody really could mean for somebody. And again, it's that outward and unselfish thinking about others that I think just separates JDF from other people. Again, yes, can we make mistakes as human beings? Can we, you know, m- s- not always take our own advice? Absolutely. Absolutely. But the effort, the amount of time that this man put into it to push such positive messages and to just make every encounter with a fan worthwhile, just means everything, everything. And so yeah, I've seen countless videos, man, of him coming out saying, guys, I got you. I'm gonna be here as long as there's a line out here. I've been to conventions waiting for this man at a panel like 10, 15 minutes late because he's had a line that he's wanted to clear out first before coming to his panel, and then have everybody come back to the table, guys. I got you. If you didn't get a chance, I got you. I mean, the man did it all. He did it all. And so I love that story that you told there for sure. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Power Rangers Legacy. And don't ever feel cringe about saying that, because I know it might feel odd to some people, but like, especially when you don't know the lifestyle that somebody was raised in or the ordeals that we came to. There's a reason why some people get attached to movies and television, because sometimes that's like their only safe haven in the world, right? And they make these connections with these characters that just mean everything to them. And so I don't see it as cringe at all. I'm glad that you had these connections to these characters, and I'm sorry that it's such an impactful loss for you as well. But it seems like you've got some great memories, and just definitely hold on to those. So guys, I think that's gonna be it. Um, I think that's going to do it for the live viewer questions today, but I will begin with Adam Perea, my twin. I'll go ahead and tackle your question first, and I'll go ahead and make sure I record that. If anything, I'll probably try and record that tomorrow night after I get home from work, and maybe have something up for you guys on Tuesday, okay? So keep a lookout for that. I will just jump here in this live chat real quick, see if there was anything left. No, I think that was it. Marcelino Vasquez says, without getting into spoilers, I will say this: Titus Welliver was way better than Jesse Eisenberg's Les Luthor, despite the limited screen time. 100%, my guy. 100%. Shocking, shocking. And that's the one thing I do enjoy about Titans is that it is taking its own liberties and it continues to make me know nobody is safe. And I think they've really hit that, especially last year with Hawk. And then this year as well. Nobody is safe. But yeah, I would agree with you. I really did enjoy Titus Welliver. And I'm as a part of me that's actually hoping Marcelino there's a swerve. And he manages to come back at some point in time. I have no idea, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how it plays itself out. But guys, that's going to do it for me here. Thank you so much for joining me for such a late episode of Hero Reports. Feel free to like this video. Please share it in case a lot of people didn't get the opportunity to check it out because of its late drop. I know it's nearly midnight where some of you guys might be at, maybe a little bit earlier if on the West Coast. But thank you guys for spending your Sunday evening with me. And we definitely have more content certainly headed your way. The live viewer questions headed your way. The Andor finale review certainly headed your guys' way. And maybe I might actually pull the excerpt from the holiday special for Guardians of the Galaxy and make that its own separate video also. And then we'll see what we do for Wednesday along with Titans. But we'll definitely keep you guys posted. And hopefully we'll have the whole gang back on next week's episode. But we do plan on continuing to be live on Sunday at 11 a.m. Central Time. So we'll certainly see you guys then. But until then, do me a big favor as always, guys. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.